Not out mine.
Is that also a dog, or is there another animal there?
All right. Hey, everybody out there, and welcome to Black Spinner Music Podcast, where we have another show today. Today's episode, we are having a vinyl battle. And today we are going to be doing debut albums from the year 1967, a very pivotal year in the world of music. A lot of barriers are being broken down. A lot of things are being heard for the first time. Sounds are fresh, so fresh that they still sound fresh today, almost 45 years later. So the albums that we're going to be doing today is the Doors' debut album, released in January 4th of 1967 against Jimi Hendrix, and The Experience, Are You Experienced? And their debut album was released on May 12th, 1967. There's a lot of similarities with this album, with these two albums. Both bands had fantastic frontmen. Jim Morrison can be considered the first frontman that everybody tried to copy from then on. And Jimi Hendrix is known as one of the greatest guitar players even today. But let's not discredit the band that's behind them, especially on the Doors. You had a fantastic keyboardist in Ray Manzarek and John Densmore on drums, and of course the great Rob Krieger on guitar. And on the other side, The Experience, you're going to have Mitch Mitchell on drums, and you're going to have, I forgot the bass player.
Noel Redding.
No, Redding. Thank you. I kept on saying that over and over all day today, but thank you so much. So we are going to go track by track, and we're going to come up with a winner on this battle. Today, joining us, we have Kate Doré from the International House of Vinyl. How's it going, Kate?
Howdy. Good. How are you guys doing?
And I'll also go to her page for some great deals on some really good auctions on some great albums. And she's got fantastic albums to sell. Not just that, she's got a great knowledge of what she's selling. She's not just selling records. She'll tell you everything you need to know about them. And also, we got Al Horta from the Be Cool or Be Podcast Out podcast. And it's a great page. It's a great page on YouTube. You want to see some great live shows and also other stuff that he does with his collection. Go ahead and look him up and subscribe to his channel. He really does crystal clear video from his phone. Fantastic job. And also we have Edwin Canestrossi from the Rock and Roll Over a podcast. A great podcast. Check it out. It's also available on iTunes and also on his YouTube page. He does really great music documentaries on his own. Right now, his latest one is a 2-part Elvis one for beginners, and he hits on all the high points of what to listen to and what the difference between the Sun and RCA and the Move and the '68 comeback and how that came about. So check it out if you're an Elvis fan or if you're just interested in the beginning of rock and roll. That's a really good one. And also, if you're interested, there's a really good one about Dennis Wilson and the Beach Boys from the late '70s, which is really exciting. So, Kate, why don't you tell us what you think about these two albums we're about to discuss?
Oh my gosh, I don't even know where to start. This is all the beginning of like really getting into popular psych, I feel like, between the two. Both huge hits in the US and UK. I mean, it's just wild. I was just listening to both of them today again, probably for the third time since we started talking about doing this. And like you said, I mean, these just like all these guys are killers. Everyone on their instrument, masterful. 2 killer frontmen that are just iconic. And then how many hits off each album did they have? For 2 debut albums, these are just astonishing. So I don't know. I could gush forever. You guys know how that is, but I'll leave it at that.
And it's crazy that 4 years later, poof, it was all done with.
Yeah.
Just a 4-year period. Of course, we have these different releases coming out from Hendrix and stuff like that. And his family's doing a fantastic job in keeping the quality of the music coming out.
Yeah,
and
the new
high quality.
remastered ones they've released that are like the Hendrix family okayed are actually really good pressings and
Yeah.
well done.
Yeah, and I'm glad they took it over because they were really cheapening his name there in the late 70s. What do you think about these two albums that we're about to talk about?
Well, I mean, the Doors one really was my brother introduced me to that one because that was one of his favorite bands. I remember being a kid and he spun that debut album like all the time.
Mhm.
And I remember always looking at the cover and Jim Morrison just looked like, a god. I mean, I consider him like the first real kind of rock god frontman. I mean, you could say Elvis, but I mean, a rock god frontman of a band, even before, I mean, I know there was Mick Jagger and stuff, but Mick Jagger to me didn't really become that. For me, he didn't really become Mick Jagger until like the late '60s, until like that's when really the Stones really were coming into their own, in my opinion. The early stuff is great too, but then I mean, Jim right out of the gate, man. I mean, he was just like he had the pinup looks, and all the girls wanted to be with him, and all the guys wanted to be him, And
Yeah.
you know how it goes.
Yep.
And what can you say about Jimmy, man? I mean, he changed the format of guitar forever. I mean, he was the first, like, I wouldn't call him a shredder, but I mean, he really took it to the next level. I mean, he made all the premier guitar players like take notice, like Clapton, Page, and who else? Pete Townsend, all them guys, man. Like they were like, "What the hell is going on?"
With Jimmy Page, Tony Iommi, all those guys.
Well, Jimmy Page actually was still a session player at that time, so it wasn't really known yet as Jimmy Page. But
yeah, I mean the influence. I mean,
yeah,
Jimmy was doing.
Yeah, most definitely.
What these guys would be doing.
Yeah, Hendrix just really like rewrote the book, And then I mean, both albums are fantastic. I mean, my brother didn't really have that album though, so I kind of discovered it a little later on as I was discovering music on my own. And I mean, this is gonna be a tough one, man, between those two because I have a special bond with the Doors' first album. So I don't know, man. We're gonna see, man. I didn't. I mean, I've listened to both albums so many times. I didn't really refresh my mind on them. I like you guys know, especially Andy and Kate, that I like to go into these things kind of unrehearsed. I just do it spontaneous. I don't really prepare for like these shows, so I just like to kind of just shoot from the hip, and just go with the gut instinct. So that's going to be the same thing tonight. So,
all right, let's see what happens. And what about you, Ed? What do you think about these two albums that are going head to head?
Well, obviously they're two revolutionary albums that changed music forever. So, and this was a year where they weren't even the only two albums that did that. This is the year that Sgt. Pepper came out.
Was such a pivotal year, man.
Yeah, I mean, Piper's, Piper at the Gates of Dawn, Pink Floyd's first album. I mean, this 67 is a very important year, obviously, but in a lot of ways, I would put these two albums at the top, even ahead of Sgt. Pepper, in terms of the influence. Like, as important as Sgt. Pepper was, like, you don't hear a lot of music that sounds like Sgt. Pepper. Like, if anything, I think Revolver is a little more influential in that sense. But it's like the Experience and the Doors, like you heard, I actually think the Experience is the most influential because pretty much every modern rock band is following this album to some degree, even when you go into the 90s or Turner Rock, and just I mean everything from Sabbath to Smashing Pumpkins, onward, it's all kind of comes from this first album by Jimi Hendrix. And the Doors, I would say, they had a very big influence, especially like in the early 80s with a lot of new wave bands, a lot of college rock. So, they had a lot of influence, Talking Heads, Blondie, a lot of bands like that. You could hear like kind of what the Doors were doing in 67, Echo and the Bunnymen, a lot of that stuff. So, two revolutionary bands creating two revolutionary albums that were exceedingly modern for their time, and I think still sound fresh. And I will say what Al was saying, like Jim Morrison is the first rock star, the way we think of a rock star. Obviously, they were famous musicians before and people like Elvis and stuff. But, Jim with the hair, the leather, the hedonistic lifestyle, kind of everything that we kind of think of as a rock star is Jim Morrison. And I think Jimi Hendrix to some degree as well. So essentially, but yeah, you got both of them, Jimmy and Jim, and they're both part of the 27 Club, and yeah, so it's just like it's amazing that these two guys, and not to their bands are important and they're amazing musicians,
But these two main guys, yeah.
Yeah, I mean Jimmy and Jim, I mean they're just, it's just like they're I don't throw this word around a lot, but they're like gods. Like, I mean, literally, they're like gods that came down to earth, that were modern futuristic men that changed the world. Like maybe from another time. I don't know. They might have been messing around with quantum physics. I don't know. All I know is that there weren't men like this before 1967. Jimmy and Jim appear, and suddenly there's men like this. So I'm a little suspicious. Something's going on. Aliens might be involved. I don't know. That's all I'm saying.
Definitely.
I got a lot of thoughts.
But the thing is that you're right, because when they came in 1967, they just, the Beatles were doing great things, but this was a whole different world.
People were freaked out by the Beatles. Like in '64, like parents were like, "Oh my God, look at them! Look at their hair." Can you imagine what they thought of Jim Morrison and Jimi Hendrix just like 2 years later?
Yeah.
They're like, "What the hell? Bring back the Beatles! They're such nice boys."
Yeah, they came out with just such vigor and just so much potential, and they answered the bell to that. So let's get started. The way that we do vinyl battle is that we go from track versus track. We've all done vinyl battle before, so we all know how this goes. So we'll start with track 1, and we'll come up. I'll tally everything, and we'll come back. We'll come up with a winner at the end of who gets the most check marks. I didn't make it that difficult this time, like I did the last time when we did the 3 albums with a Deep Purple and Led Zeppelin and Sabbath. So it's a little bit easier this time. So let's go with track 1 on the Doors. We have Break On Through to the Other Side.
Mm-hmm. You had to look at that? Come on, let's Break On Through. You knew that.
Against Purple Haze, which are 2 great tracks, which were both big hits for both, and they're still played today on classic rock radio, and they're still very influential to this time. So, Kate, what's your pick on that one?
So I'm going to say, for me, the toughest choices were the bookends. The top of the albums and the end of the albums were the hardest ones to pick my favorite. This one, I'm going with Break On Through. Purple Haze, obviously, I love that song. It's one of Hendrix's most famous songs ever. But the way that Break On Through kicks off, and it just like sets up for how spicy this album can get, I went with that. That was my off the cuff choice.
Good one.
Yeah.
Ow.
I'm gonna go Break On Through as well. This was a tough one because they're. I mean, I love both songs, man. But I don't know, Break On Through. Like you got John Densmore doing like the bossa nova beat, and in a rock format. I mean, he doesn't. I'll tell you what, man. I mean, John Densmore doesn't get the love that he deserves. I think he's a phenomenal, underrated drummer who should be in the conversation more. I mean, he had chops for days, man. The jazz chops, bringing that into like a rock format. And I met him too, and he's a great guy, like really, really nice. And as a matter of fact, I met him at that vintage vinyl, like those pictures that I showed just before.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah. They had a lot of rock stars and a lot of artists go through there and do signings and even performances. They had a little stage where artists would perform and stuff. But I got to meet him there, and he had one of his books that he was promoting, so he signed that. And he signed one of my Doors albums, and I got to talk to him a little bit. And he was a real nice guy. So anyway, I think he's a very underrated drummer. I love John Densmore. I love his style. That being said, I mean, on the other side, Mitch Mitchell was a very, very excellent drummer as well. Kind of almost in the Keith Moon vein, like almost like really, really energetic and all over the place. Like, but still a tight drummer too. I guess being in a 3-piece, you kind of, you got to fill out the sound. So,
yep.
But again, I'm going with Break On Through. I think just as an album starter, it's really cool, and I don't know. I just have fond memories of just putting the needle down on the record and hearing, John Densmore's beat come in and, So, I mean, it was cool. And yeah, I love Purple Haze too, but I'm going to give the edge to Break On Through on this one. Go ahead, Ed.
Good.
Well, obviously, I love both songs. Obviously, you have to love both songs. Well, you don't love rock music. And this was a tough one. This was a tough one. And, I'm a huge Doors fan. As you might know, Andy, a few months back on the Rock All Over You podcast, we did the Doors debut. We have like a 2-hour crazy drunken episode with Mark Allen Taylor, who he was on. He was really shit-faced. So anyway, but we had a really fun episode. It's actually one of my favorite episodes we did, where we discussed the Doors. So I gushed all over the. What I'm saying is, in a sense, that episode kind of ruined this a little bit, because I gushed so much over the Doors that I'm a little spent on gushing over the Doors. But yeah, I love the Doors. They're one of my favorite bands. They're actually the first band that I ever got into. So like Al, I have sentimental value. I don't know. It's just like, Italian guys from the Northeast. We kind of got into. Jim Morrison was like a gateway for us. I don't know something about it. So he was a gateway for me as a little kid. It was my first cassette I bought. My allowance money was the Doors' greatest hits. Of course, I had Break On Through. And, eventually utilizing the Columbia House scam, I got all that. And so the Doors are very important to me. I love the Doors. And I'm saying this because I'm giving it the Purple Haze. I love Break On Through. It's great. But I was, it's funny because I'm a huge Jimi Hendrix fan. And I have a lot of memories of Jimmy too. But the difference is I got into the Doors in elementary school. I got into Jimi Hendrix in junior high. So I've lived with the Doors a little bit longer, but still I've lived with Hendrix for a while. And it was like the 90s. So Hendrix and the Doors were like current acts, and we were all listening to them in junior high and high school. But anyway, what I'm getting at is they're both very important to me. But for whatever reason, I haven't really listened to Are You Experienced in a while because of you, Andy. I've become obsessed with Are You Experienced in the past few days.
Oh, great. Good.
So I was just listening to it, and I was just like, it's one of those, Zeppelin's a little like that, where if you haven't listened to them in a while, like if you haven't, there's a burnout factor, but if you haven't listened to them in a while, like if you haven't listened to 4 in a couple of years, and then you put it on, you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. No wonder why it's one of the biggest selling albums ever. And I was kind of like this with Are You Experienced this week. I was listening to it, and like Purple Haze, it's like, how many times have I heard Purple Haze in my life? But I haven't heard it a lot in the past year or two. And so when it came on, it just came on. It's just like, God damn it. Why Jimi Hendrix invented heavy metal? Why don't people say this more? I mean, it's right there. It happened there in Purple Haze. It's an amazing song. And even Break On Through has some proto-metal moments, but as you point out, there's a bossa nova beat, which is cool. Don't get me wrong. I like some bossa nova. I like some jazz. But, God, Purple Haze just rocks, man.
Yeah.
And it just has that deep groove, and it's just like, I have to give that the edge. So I'm giving the edge to Purple Haze.
When I was hearing Are You Experienced, I was telling myself, man, this is a hard rock album.
Yeah.
From beginning to end, it's a hard rock album.
It's the hardest rocking album.
It might be one of the first hard rock albums out there.
I was surprised. Like, you listen to this is 67. This is really heavy stuff.
Yep. It really is.
And throughout most of the album, too, with the like 2 ballads. It's pretty hard rocking for the most part.
Yeah, and still the ballads is a pretty good guitar work and heavy drum to it, even though it's slowed down. it's still a heavy beat to it.
Well, it's just like most heavy metal albums have like one or two ballads. Like that in itself is like the formula, like the structure of a heavy metal album would have like two, like even Metallica, like there's a ballad, you know?
Yeah, of some type. Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah.
Okay, and with me, I am going to go with Break On Through to the Other Side on this one. Like I was saying, just the beginning of it, it's jazzy. You know, that dun, 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 and then it just breaks through.
I see what you did there, Andy.
But thank you. But it starts to get, you know, the music starts coming, and then you just hear Jim just come out with his great lyrics. So I did give the edge to the Doors on that one. So the Doors take round one on that one. So track 2, we're going with Soul Kitchen against Manic Depression. Woo-hoo! Another good battle between two big songs that are both played on the radio, but maybe not as much as the first two, but they're just as important. So what do you think, Kate? What are you going to go with? Soul Kitchen against Manic Depression. Dun, dun, dun.
So this one I went with Manic Depression. Both have great beats, and the overall vibe of each one is so different. So this was a harder set to compare each two, I guess. But that Manic Depression, when he's diving into some more bluesy kind of riffs, almost like on the edge of blues, and just the lyrics and everything. I don't know, that song's so good, and I think that's one of his more maybe underrated songs, probably in my mind. I feel like it's not played as much. It doesn't get as much credit because all his like shredding songs I feel are up there on the list of his repertoire, but they're the slower songs and his ballads and slower stuff are awesome too. He's just so versatile in how he can play and where he can go with what he's doing. So Soul Kitchen's fun. I like the beat. I like that driving thing going on. But between the two, I had to go with Manic Depression.
Yep.
Yeah.
Ow.
Yeah, I'm gonna go on this one again. I love both songs. Yeah, two different vibes, but I'm going with Manic Depression on this one. One of my favorite Jimi songs, actually, in this whole catalog. Just love the hard driving nature of the song.
Yep.
The riff is killer on it, as with most Jimi's riffs anyway. Soul Kitchen's cool, man. It starts off with obviously Ray, you know, on the organ, and it's just got I love the chorus, you know, let me sleep in how's it go?
Your Soul Kitchen.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. I forgot, but I haven't listened to it in a while, but I can hear it in my head right now. I was never good at lyrics, actually, but anyway. But Manic Depression, man, I mean, just fucking killer song, dude. I mean, I have nothing more really to say. You know,
I obviously this is going to be a thing I'm sure you're going to hear a lot on this show.
Yeah.
Both great songs. Love them both. Love Soul Kitchen. Awesome song. I love the lyrics. It's a great song. But yeah, I gotta go with Manic Depression. Manic Depression is my favorite song on this album, actually. This song, man, and this I always love this song. But again, this was another one that hit me this week when I was listening to it. And then again, just like this is heavy metal music.
A lot of people have covered it too, man.
Yeah, and as good as some of those covers are, can't match the original. This man, just the groove and the fluid quality that Kate was touching upon this of Jimmy's guitar playing. Now, this is the thing. Like, even though this is prototypical heavy metal, Jimi, though, you know, whose roots are in like the blues and soul music, like he's bringing a fluid quality to the playing that you don't often have in a lot of subsequent heavy metal music. You know, maybe, you know, some other proto heavy metal like Jimmy Page and Zeppelin, but there's just a quality to it, like almost a jazziness at times, that where he's just like flowing around, and there's just there's just so much going on. And also, I gotta say, Mitch Mitchell too, really underrated. Both, obviously very underrated. You know, John Denver's great too, but yeah, brought up Ali brought up the Keith Moon thing. Is this might be controversial, and I like Keith Moon a lot. He's a great drummer, but I think Mitch Mitchell's better because he has the crazy wild man thing, but as you also point out, he kind of keeps the beat better than Keith Moon does. Keith Moon kind of
He's a better timekeeper. Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
it's kind of like Jimmy himself is doing on guitar, which I was always impressed by Jimmy. It's like he can play rhythm and lead like at the same time.
Same time.
And it wasn't just a studio trick. Like if you watch live clips, he's doing two things at once, you know.
Yeah.
Mitchell's kind of doing that on drums. It's very impressive. He's keeping this driving groove, you know, and there'll be another song later on where he really does this impressively. But yeah, he's spazzing out and doing all this wild man shit. And it's just really, really impressive. Like I was really impressed with Mitch Mitchell when listening to this album and said, this guy doesn't get enough attention. I understand for the same reason why John Densmore gets ignored. Like, yeah, it's tough when you're in a band with a god from the future or some other universe that people are going to ignore you a little bit. But man, Mitch Mitchell's an amazing drummer, and this song's amazing. It's one of his best songs, one of my favorites. Yeah, so I'm definitely doing Manic Depression.
I am also going to go with Manic Depression. The rhythm on this, it's like a herky-jerky rhythm to it, but it's so fluid. If that makes sense.
It keeps building, and then it cuts, and then it builds again, and it just works. A lot of songs can't work well doing that choppy kind of thing, but that one just
Great lyrics too, really innovative lyrics. I think Jimi Hendrix is underrated as a lyricist.
As a songwriter.
As a songwriter. Ralph Vieira brings this up quite a bit. Like as a guitarist, he's like rated just right, you know? But as a songwriter, I feel he's underrated. People don't really talk about him as a songwriter. And
they don't.
Especially in 67. This is like, you could be singing about like a modern, like a 2022 neurotic, like now, you know, suffering from manic depression, you know? Very innovative stuff.
Yeah. So I did go with Manic Depression as well. It's just an amazing song. I've loved it since the first time I've heard it. That is one song that, you know, there's some songs that get played out. I don't get played out or tired of ever hearing Manic Depression. It's just a killer track. Track number 3, Crystal Ship against Hey Joe. You know, another great between both of them. A great battle between both of them. Hey Joe, of course, being a cover that Jimmy pretty much made his own. Easily, just like Edwin says that Elvis would do with covers. You would forget who did it originally. You just thought it was an original Elvis. Right here, you think Hey Joe is an original Jimmy. Yeah. So, I guess I kind of gave out who I picked. But go, Kate. Who's your number 3 pick between those two tracks?
Well, I think I'm going to pick what you picked and go with Hey Joe. This is just another one that he gets into that kind of like rock, but it's still that blues background that you hear, that like almost like a recall thing. I don't know if it's just imprinted in his brain to have that twang to it almost. I don't know how to describe it. You guys know what I'm talking about though, but he gets into like some flow states in this that I feel like are pretty incredible when he's playing this. And what a different song to play. Like especially the lyrics, like how we were saying, he's such an underrated lyricist, which this isn't his song, but I feel like the vibe that he can get in, like tuned into this.
It's a total Jimmy song,
yeah, like
crazy.
It's on the level of like, I remember somebody was talking about this, like one of my dad's friends always tries to relate to me by talking about like more recent music. He's like talking about Eminem singing about killing his wife and all this stuff. And he's like, yeah, it's like really like, Jimi Hendrix, Hey Joe. And it's like, okay. But it is a very different song for the time of like all the lyrics and what the song's about. And even if it's not Hendrix's song, it's Hendrix's song. Like when he does Along the Watchtower, it's Hendrix's song.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody else wrote it, but nobody else does it like Jimmy. So I got to go with Hey Joe.
Yeah. What's your pick between Crystal Ship and Hey Joe?
Again, like Ed said, we're going to be saying this a lot. Love both songs. I do love both songs. I'm actually going to go with Crystal Ship because I love that song, man. Like when I was a kid, you know, I would put the record on a turntable. I'd listen to it in headphones, and I don't know, that song had this hypnotic quality to it, and I kind of just listening to it, you just kind of couldn't help but just kind of melt away into the song. And I loved Jim's lyrics in it, and I just loved the hypnotic quality of it. You know, it just kind of made you high without even being high. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, you get lost in that song. You really do.
Lost in that song, you know.
Yeah.
And as I love Hey Joe as well. I mean, yeah, that's you wouldn't even never know. You know, it was a cover. I mean, he definitely made it his own, just like pretty much everything else that he covered. But yeah, he put his stamp of quality on it. But you know, I mean, Crystal Ship gets the nod on this one. I just have fond memories of listening to that as a kid, you know, and I could put that song on now, and it takes me right back to, you know, going in my brother's room and getting the album out and just putting I had it up until recently, maybe 2 years ago. I sold it, but we had this this one piece like stereo thing. It had a turntable, had an 8-track player, and I had the radio, and I had the one, you know, I had the speaker, and I used to plug in like these headphones into it, and with a long cord, and just go lay in bed and listen to albums and stuff. And I remember just listening to that album over and over. But Crystal Ship really like made an impression on me as like a kid, you know. I just love the vibe of it. So I'm going with Crystal Ship on this one.
Yeah, it really has a really deep feel to it. It really does. You can get really hypnotic in that 2.5 minute song. It's really I mean,
Joe Perry actually did a cover of that on one of his more recent like solo albums.
Who did?
You know, Joe Perry.
Oh, really?
By relatively recent, he means like 20 years ago.
Yeah, shit. It was like, well, I think it was like
by Aerosmith standards, that is relative.
It was in the mid 2000s, like 2006 or something like that.
Yeah, it's
2005, 2006.
Yeah.
But damn,
I like that album. That's a good album.
I mean, shit, man, it's like 15, 16 years, 17 years. You know, it's almost going on 20 years. I can't believe it, man. Jesus.
16 years ago, wow.
And I saw that he did when he really. It was just a album called Joe Perry. It has a red cover with him on the cover with his guitar.
Yeah,
yeah.
And he did I think he did 2 shows to promote that album. One in New York City, and I went to it.
Oh, did you?
He did the whole album. He did the whole album, and he only did like one Aerosmith. Well, not even an Aerosmith song. He did the what's that song that he usually covers that he sings live with Aerosmith? I can't think of the name of it right now. It's like
the music dudes are talking.
He used to do Red House, Jimi Hendrix.
No, it's not. It's not a Joe Perry project song. It's a I can't think of the name of it, but it's like a blues song that he covers. Anyway, like it wasn't even an Aerosmith original, but he did the whole solo album front to back, and the one song. But I mean, I was cool with that. I mean, I knew I was expecting going in there. I wasn't expecting to go hear a bunch of Aerosmith songs anyway. You know, he was promoting the album, and he only did like I said, I think he only did like 2 or 3 shows. I think one in Boston and one in New York, and that was like it. So I got the chance to see something special. Anyway, he covered that song on that album. So, but I mean, it's not. I still love the original the best. You know.
Yeah, but that's crazy that Joe Perry would cover Crystal Ship. That's a crazy idea.
Not the song you would think he would cover.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
it was kind of a cool like twist, you know.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to everything that the people upstairs said is correct about Hey Joe, but I'm down here in the basement, Val, getting high, and yeah, I gotta go with Crystal Ship. I love Crystal Ship. In fact, this is the thing. Crystal Ship is my favorite song on this album.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Cool.
Yeah, and it's like a top 5 Doors song for me. It's like one of my all-time favorite Doors songs. There's just a feel into it, that feeling.
Yeah.
And I always love this song, but it's like a song that's just in, you know, it's very short, as Andy pointed out, but it's like short, but like epic. And,
exactly.
You know, and it's a song. I mentioned this on that podcast where we talked about this album, but it's a big drinking song for me in the sense like whenever if I'm walking home, because I don't drink and drive because that's for losers. So if I'm responsibly staggering home drunk from the local watering hole. I sing Crystal Ship. It's a song I sing. It's like a ship. It travel, it sends me home. and I'm not a big singer, even though I used to sing for a band. I'm not a big singer, and I don't remember lyrics too well either.
But you got the rhythm down.
Yeah, even though I'm a writer and I used to sing, I'm bad with lyrics for some reason. But whenever I'm walking back, I know that song. I know those lyrics, and I always sing it. There's just something about that. It's like my going home after drinking song. So Crystal Ship means a lot for me. It's a light and anchor in the drunken night. And I love that song. It's one of the greatest songs ever. And God damn it, it's Crystal Ship. So I love it. No disrespect to Hey Joe, that's great too. But
yeah, of course.
Definitely going.
And real quick, just to go back, I think it really showcases, much like how we talked about Jimi Hendrix being an underrated songwriter. I think Jim Morrison is an underrated vocalist because I think when he really like buckles down, he sings like he could really sing, man. Not just belt it out, but a softer song like that really showcases his vocal talent. I think he was a very talented vocalist.
Well, we talk about jazz a lot with musicians, but that's the thing is like Jim Morrison, his two favorite singers were Elvis and Frank Sinatra.
Yeah.
And Crystal Ship definitely has like the Sinatra influence.
Oh, definitely.
Like he croons, that's the thing. He's like rock and roll's crooner.
Yeah.
And that's not a style of singing that most rock singers, they wouldn't approach a song like Crystal Ship. Even if they sang it, they'd sing kind of the way Joe Perry sang it,
Yeah.
Where Jim Morrison, he really croons it like a jazz singer. And, there's a gentle quality to it and a darkness. There's always a little darkness in Jim's vocals. And that's the thing. It's a beautiful song, but it's like darkly beautiful. And that's like every Doors ballad is darkly beautiful. So,
well said, my friend.
Yeah. And really, he will show off his vocals. And the next release, Waiting for the Sun, he really does a really good job on that.
Yeah, amazing vocals. Well, that whole album, Morse tells me. Amazing.
Yeah, hold on. Let me let the dog out.
I'm grabbing another beer while you
go ahead.
Right.
That's me and you, Kate.
Right. Go get your dog. I saw him. Where'd she go?
She's around somewhere. She's probably laying down. In bed.
Right. So cute.
Waiting for me or whatever.
What are you doing?
Daddy, it's bedtime.
Yeah.
But yeah, you saw Roger Waters a few weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, you were joking how you got ripped off.
Yeah, you guys got the pig and we didn't. Detroit got robbed.
You only got the sheep, right?
Yeah. Yeah. He pulled out the pig in Illinois in Chicago, and I was like, what the hell? He had it with him. Yeah. He doesn't pull it out, but I don't know that. I'm wondering with how that one is, like the Little Caesars, there's certain like garters and different stuff in the ceiling, so I'm wondering if he couldn't get it out for that.
Oh, maybe
in the way it didn't have enough room to fly around, or
the garden.
I don't know.
Yeah, the garden. My Master Garden is pretty roomy.
That's a big because they have like the big scoreboards and stuff. I think are in the way at Little Caesars.
Yeah,
I don't know, but yeah.
No, but it was a pretty phenomenal show.
Yeah, he's amazing, and his band was super tight. Like in the
stage
light show,
cool.
Yeah.
I like the way he had the screen.
Yeah.
I had to once in a while. I had to pull away from the screen though. I found myself focusing a little too much.
You're like hypnoptized by that.
Yeah, sometimes I want to watch the band, and I had to force myself to kind of.
Yeah, some of that.
I was also recording the show as well.
Yeah, that's
only you did record it.
Yeah, it'll be up probably tonight or tomorrow.
Yeah,
so.
but man, that pig was huge.
Yeah. That's I was saying to Alice, teasing him that we got ripped off at Detroit. I think it's too big to fly around at Little Caesars.
Yeah.
But they that was intense, man. Like some of the show, I was like, holy shit, I'm so glad I wasn't high or anything. It's like, Jesus.
Yeah, no, he's an intense guy, man.
He brings it back though. Like I understand why he gets like that. Like he's super, super passionate about everything. And I think it's cool that he's like uses that to his advantage, I guess. Like he has that stage literally, but
some people don't agree, some people are,
he can say whatever he wants, like
there were people in the audience that were huffing and hawing and,
same in our show.
Yeah, and listen, man. I mean,
It's like you know who he is, you know what his music's
you
been
know what you're
about the
going
whole
into.
time.
Exactly. If
Yeah.
you
I
haven't
don't
been
let it
following
bother
him,
me. I don't let that stuff bother me. You know, it's even if I don't agree with it. I mean, it's his opinion. It's his stance.
Yeah.
Whatever. I
He's
don't.
allowed to say whatever he wants. It's not hurting anyone.
Yeah.
Like Nick was in line for the bathroom, and this dude in front of Nick is like, "Yeah, see that says men's room, not trans room, blah blah blah." And I was like, "Oh boy, this guy is not gonna be happy
Oh,
with this
God.
show." It's like he's gonna walk his ass out, I bet. So I'm
You know
sure
what's
he
funny,
was
though?
not happy.
No, it's funny that what was I gonna say? You know, the political thing. You know, I mean, he's
Mhm.
always been like that. I mean,
That's what I mean. Like
I mean, go back to Animals. I mean, that whole album.
exactly.
You
Well, and
know,
especially all the war stuff, like the wall and everything. Like if someone
Yeah.
doesn't think that he's political, then they're just
Yeah.
not paying attention.
well, he was
That's the
injecting
thing.
some humor into it too. Like, you know,
Yeah, he was really sweet, and I like all the stuff he had about like Sid was really sweet, I thought. And
Yeah.
he was really nice with his band. Like you could tell he's nice to his band, and I
And
think
I'm
he
saying-
means well when he does it. Some people
Yeah.
just get that hyper focus. I think he means well by doing it, like trying to show people that not everybody has it so great.
Well, you know, I'll say this about him. One last thing, you know, and we'll get back into the show.
Yeah.
You know, he hates everybody, so it's not like he leans to one side or
Yeah,
another.
exactly.
He's
I
just
think
kinda-
that's just like
we're
he's
talking about Roger Waters.
Yeah.
I
And
figured that.
I think
He just humors everybody, man.
It just haven't said his name yet.
some of that I feel like is cultural.
I figured that.
Some of that's cultural in my mind to be kind of prickly or like, they're pretty blunt too a lot. Like I have a handful of friends that are English or like, from somewhere in the UK, and they can be cutting as all get out, and they're just being brutally honest, and people take it the wrong way. It's like they're not trying to be a dick. They're just brutally honest, and then they can be kind of prickly like that. Like I think he's a dude. If he likes you, he likes you, and if he doesn't, then he doesn't waste his time with you. But I mean, that still relates to these guys. Like Hendrix, obviously, and Morrison are big anti-war guys. Like one thing that I listened to that was really interesting, that Mike Rowe, do you guys remember the Dirty Jobs guy? He has a thing called That's the Way I Heard It. So he does these like 10-15 minute pods that he'll put out, and it's kind of like that what was it, like Mort Krim or one of those guys would do, and that's the rest of the story thing. So he does something kind of like that called That's the Way I Heard It, and he does one on Morrison's dad, who is like responsible for the incident of Tonkin, like kicked off Vietnam. I'll have to send it to you guys. It's super interesting because he makes the call, kicks off Vietnam in the Gulf of Tonkin, and then it's like here you have this son that's like not a military dude in any respects whatsoever, and he is like super anti-war and everything, and like a front man of that whole era of like anti-Vietnam. And he's definitely, like we said, like one of the first rock stars, that he's just a wild cavalier kind of guy.
Yeah.
So I'll send you guys that pod. It's short, but it's really interesting to listen to him talk about it.
Definitely be interested in that. Yeah, I always found that very interesting about Jim.
Yeah, he does a bunch. There's like loads of them that he did, but they're all like 10-15 minutes, and they're cool. But that Morrison one's really interesting because I never knew anything about it until I listened to that.
Yeah, send that because that does sound.
Yeah, I'll send you guys the
cool.
link. It's cool.
All right. Cool.
I think we were on what, Andy?
Let's get back. I already said hey John. We already said enough of it. So actually, that was a tie. So both songs win. Since we don't have a tiebreaker,
we have like a bonus track throwdown if there's a tie.
Yeah, we'll figure something out when we get to that.
Stone Freeze, Time to Shine.
And
right.
And the next track, we got the Doors doing 20th Century Fox.
Yep.
Against Land or Confusion.
Love or Confusion.
Love or Confusion.
I mean, I can't even read my Love or Confusion.
It's all right.
For a second, I thought, what were we doing? Genesis?
And a Confusion.
Right. So let's go with 20th Century Fox against Love or Confusion. What do you think, Kate?
Oh, to sound like a broken record. Both great songs. We're gonna say it a lot.
It should be the hash. Maybe we just have the hashtag up on the
Hashtag
screen.
both great songs.
Both great songs. It's understood.
So I was thinking about this. It's funny that certain songs in these, they don't line up perfectly, but they have such similar things, because this verse, like 20th Century Fox and Foxy Lady, and like there's a couple ballads that I feel sync up very. They must have been on the same spaceship. Like Ed said, they're both aliens. Like I talk about the alien thing a lot, that it's like maybe they aren't aliens, but some kind of celestial being that came to Earth for a very short time to blow people's minds. But there's a lot of songs that kind of sync up if we did them in different order. But that 20th Century Fox, I'm gonna go with. I think that's just like a really fun, it was probably a throwaway song for them, but to me it's like a fun song. It has a good beat to it. And I think it's pretty clever, honestly, for like the title, and the writing in it is clever for just what it is. I don't know. So I'm going with 20th Century Fox over Love and Confusion.
What about you, Al?
Well, I'm gonna go with 20th Century Fox as well. I mean, it's another song I really love on the album, and like I don't know, like Kate said, it's a fun song, but I don't know, it's just you can just tell Jim was, the ladies' man. You know what I mean? Not that Jimmy wasn't. I mean, the ladies love Jimmy too, but I mean, Jim just had like that look, with the leather and all that, and you could just like, him singing like 20th Century Fox. You could just kind of picture like the ladies by the stage, like really kind of like being like in awe of him,
Well, that's like if he looked at you and was singing that, you'd be like, ah! Even if it was one of you guys, you would be like, ah!
He's a very handsome man.
Yeah.
Especially I do love Lover Confusion as well. I do love Lover Confusion as well, but I mean, I'll give the nod to 20th Century on this one. Again, it's probably my kid coming out on me, and the sentimental value of this album. And it's the same with Ed. Like, it was like I was in elementary school when I could honestly probably say the Doors was probably like the first rock band I really got into too, because of my older brother. He had all the Doors albums. He was a Doors and Zeppelin head. That was like the two bands that like he loved, where he had like the complete discographies of both bands, And again, like elementary school, I was really young and getting into them, and then, it wasn't until like junior high, like, actually a friend of mine that I became friends with in junior high, it kind of introduced me to Jimi Hendrix. I was like his favorite guitar player, and he had just started playing guitar at the time. And not too long after, like I got into it because of him, and he kind of gave me a few first lessons. And he's like, dude, you gotta listen to Jimi, man, and all that. So, but again, like I was saying before, 20th Century has probably got the sentimental value vote on this one again. So I'm going with that one.
All right. Hashtag love both. I am going with Love or Confusion, actually. It's just...
There's no wrong answers.
Yeah, there's no wrong answers here.
They're all good.
This is like a full-fledged, heavy psychedelic rock song.
Yeah.
And it's just doing a lot of really cool shit and really progressive. Like, I mean, progressive in the sense that, like, again, like you listen to a lot of like even like underground psychedelic, like indie rock bands today and stuff like that. And, in the 90s, you would hear a lot of stuff that Jimmy's doing and the way he would utilize feedback. There's just a lot going on. And 20th Century Fox is a really catchy pop rock song, and I really like that song a lot. But I don't know, this song I was just really getting into this week, and I was just like, man, it's just a really innovative track, and I love the flow and the bass and the sound of Jimmy's vocals. He's not an amazing singer, but he has a cool voice, and that's like
definitely
for rock and roll, that's like half of it.
Definitely.
I'd rather hear a guy sounds cool than a guy that can hit all these different, octaves, but doesn't sound cool. So
coolness goes a long way.
And he grounds it. It kind of grounds it. Actually, a lot of psychedelia, normally you got like some guy that's singing kind of some more Baroque kind of way. you know. And with Jimmy, you know, he's bringing in the blues. He's bringing in that soul and blues influence. So kind of grounds the psychedelia in a way that it you can kind of get into it. It's a little like Oasis, like when they did psychedelic stuff. Like Liam Gallagher is like a geezer. You kind of like he brings it down a little bit. So it's like he's like a regular guy singing this psychedelic song. Yeah. And Jimmy sounds like a regular guy singing a psychedelic song. And I really dig that a lot. So yeah, this is great song. Both great songs, but I'm going with Love or Confusion or Land or Confusion, whatever you call it. It's a great song either way.
Oh, well, let's call it the right one. Let's call it Love or Confusion.
You know who did a good cover of Love or Confusion? It was actually Eric Johnson, the guitar player.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Huh. I have a great couple soundboard recordings of him, like, you know, bootlegs, but like he did that song, and I've seen him actually on Experience Hendrix tours as well. And he always does a killer job of doing Hendrix, man. So I mean, Eric Johnson, but he did Love or Confusion, which was like really cool to hear that.
Yeah, because I'd say that thinking about this is probably the deepest track on the album.
Probably, yes.
Yeah, I'd probably go this.
You don't hear it on the radio or anything like that, you know.
Yeah, I think, and I remember like maybe some of the later tracks you wouldn't hear on the radio, but I remember people talking about them.
Yeah.
But this is not one I recall people really talking about a lot. So yeah, but it's a great song. What do you think, Andy?
What I think, I am going to go with 20th Century Fox, but Love or Confusion, I heard that so many times because that, you know how when you go back to these albums that you know so well, a track is going to stick out to you. This one stuck out to me. It's so odd that he's a great guitar player, but the guitar playing is kind of in the background on this song, and his vocals are a little bit higher. But man, he is playing some shit on that guitar there.
Amazing.
You know, even though it wasn't in the forefront, it was kind of in the background with the rest of the band. But man, he was hitting such. I mean, the rhythm of it was just so odd. And it sounded so great, but I am going to go with Century 20 Fox because
I'm glad I'm sticking up for Jimmy here.
Yeah, but it's a great pop rock song with a lot of attitude, a lot of sexiness to it. So that's why I'm going that route. But man, that Love or Confusion really did stick out to me, but it didn't make it for to win. The next track, we're going with the Alabama song, the Whiskey Bar, against May This Be Love. What do you think, Kate?
This one I went with Hendrix, May This Be Love. I like their style of psychedelic stuff maybe a little bit more than the Doors, but the Doors are so good. Like, this one's a tough one. Alabama Song's probably lower on the list of how I rank these if I was like ranking just the Doors album. I guess the more repetitive a song is, usually the less I enjoy it. So that's why Alabama Song lost out on this one. And May This Be Love was more in that psych realm that I dig. That I don't know how to describe this one. I forget that this one's on here. Like, I always think about like 6 songs that are on this, and then the rest of them I don't think about at all because I never play them. And then playing these both all the way through is like, oh, there's a lot of songs on these that I've like, I don't even think about, because there's probably 4 on the Hendrix and like 4 or 5, maybe 5 on the Doors that I'm like, oh, I forget about these songs. Like, they're just not in my memory immediately from that, and listening to these both again, I was like, oh damn, there's like a lot of other good songs on both of these that I just never think about, and they never end up on like a playlist or anything. Yeah, but going with May This Be Love.
Oh, what's your pick on this one?
I'm gonna go with Hendrix, May This Be Love. Kate touched on a lot of good points on that one. I do love the Alabama song. It's a great. You could just picture a bunch of drunken sailors
Yeah.
with the sea shanty, like, you know, just singing this song and kind of going up and down there.
That's Ed's going to the bar song, and his return home is Crystal Ship.
Yeah, exactly. Um, yeah, Ed would be singing this song in the bar, and then on the way home singing Crystal Ship. But anyway, no, May This Be Love. I mean, that's another great deep track on this album. You don't really hear this song mentioned too much, but great song nonetheless. Though, I mean, you know us, we're music lovers. We love the deep tracks. You know, so I'm gonna
the whole album.
Yeah, I'm gonna give a nod to Hendrix on this one.
Yeah, this
Jimi.
one came on when I was driving home from school, and I just like zoned out. You know how certain songs you're driving and it just
You zone out. Yeah.
you just like tune out. I don't know, but
And then I gotta
that didn't lead to an accident.
no. I'm still driving, but it's like good driving.
No, but I'm still going.
It's not distracting. It's not like
the road.
It's not too heavy. It's not distracting. It's like you're really focused and driving in that. But it like this one, it ended up in my brain that it was like, oh shit, like I really do like this song, and I never think about it.
Yeah. I feel like when
get lost.
I feel like I feel like that when that happens to me, like I'm like shit, I kind of zoned out in the song, so I have to like listen to it again.
Yeah, I put it back
and then I kind of tune in, like I gotta be like, yeah, okay, all right.
Yeah. But I feel like, I don't know, I like to call when my brain does that it's like melty, that I'm listening to it and I'm absorbing it, but it's like, I don't know, almost meditative. Like you're ever driving and you're just like in the zone, like you know exactly where you're going, you know what you're doing, like you get into the zone.
You're breaking into the quantum field, which is where Jimi and Jim came from.
Tuning into our alien overlords, and they're accessing my memories or something like that.
Or you could just say you're on automatic pilot. That's all.
Yeah, you just go on autopilot, and you're like, "Oh, I'm in my driveway. You're fine."
But that's I'm going Jimi. So go ahead, Ed.
Yeah, I'm going Jimi too. Alabama song, great song. Like they all, that's a great drinking song. Also a cover. So this is kind of like Hey Joe. It is interesting, like Kate said, there are a lot of songs that are kind of the equivalent, but they're not like adjacent to each other here. But yeah, this is another example because like Jimi, this is a song that's a cover, but they make their own. It's a Doors song.
Yeah,
it's a Doors song, especially because it comes from like a musical. But it's this is their song, and it's a great song. But man, that feeling, the way I would describe May This Be Love, it's a ballad, it's a love song, but it does have a kind of psychedelic rock component. Mitch Mitchell's drums are amazing on it. And I feel like, I don't know if he got a co-writing credit on this, but this is a good argument for drummers that say, hey, sometimes we should get co-writing credits.
Yeah, they need to push it.
Is a big part of the quality of the song, the rolling drums, but the whole thing, the guitar work, it's so gentle. This is where it shows Jimmy's real genius is as like, you look at this, like juxtapose this next to Purple Haze, like he could get so heavy, but here he can get so gentle, and not just with the songwriting, which is amazing, but with his guitar playing too. It's beautiful playing. Actually, I never really thought of this song as a deep track, maybe because it was on the single soundtrack, which is a very big soundtrack for me in the 90s.
Love that soundtrack.
Great soundtrack.
So that was a big thing I listened to a lot in the 90s. So because of that, I would listen to the song both on Are You Experienced and on the single soundtrack. So this was actually one of the more played Jimi songs as a result, just because I had those two albums.
Right.
But yeah, it's an amazing song. It's a beautiful ballad. Jimi would have many of these in his short but prolific career. And I think it's like one of the most beautiful rock ballads ever written. It's just the sonics of it. And in 1967, compared to a lot of other stuff, that's like even just a year or two before what music sounded like, and you listen to the sonics of this song, Jimmy's a genius. It was really innovative. It was amazing. It's beautiful. It's perfection. It's a work of art. What do you got to say, Andy?
I am also going to go with May This Be Love. So, it sounds amazing. The song really does take you to a whole different place. To me, it makes you feel like you're, and I know that this is going to sound a little silly, but like in some kind of platform of heaven. Yeah. Like for real. It's got that kind of aura in the song.
Very ethereal.
Yeah.
And
That's what I meant about that, like zoning out kind of music that you can tune
yeah,
out.
and he truly takes you to another place with a guitar playing and the drums just they're kind of loud but also so soft at the same time, if that makes sense. You just
They're like the lyric. They're like a waterfall.
Yeah.
That drum sound. It sounds like he was inspired by the lyrics and actually made the drum sound like a waterfall.
Yeah. They were really good at that, like machine gun, and like they were good at tuning into how something sounds and translating that into instruments.
Yeah.
Think of machine gun and Jimmy's guitar and that. It's like, holy crap, it's so
Well,
brilliant.
Yeah, I actually think that's his greatest song.
Jimmy has said that in interviews, like he would hear sounds in his head and he wanted to recreate.
Yeah.
Even real quick, like like Ed was saying in the studio, sonics of it. I mean, the studio for Jimmy was just another instrument. Like he really utilized studio
acoustics and different stuff too.
They're using just a 4-track on this too.
Yeah.
They're just bouncing tracks. They bounced tracks. They bounced it so it ended up being 8 tracks, but utilizing a 4-track.
Yeah.
Which is insane. And think about like all the things that people have now.
Yeah.
What they sound like.
Well, I think
this song with 4 tracks.
Well, I see. This is the thing with technology now. And that's not to say that technology is not great. I mean, you can be at home and just if you want to record something real quick, I mean, you can dial up, 100 tracks or whatever.
Right. Yeah. Or we could do something like this.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, like back then, you really had the limitations of the studio. Made you somehow be more creative in a way, like
what if it pushed you to like let's figure out how to do this.
Yeah.
And in that you got really creative.
Yeah, just mic placement alone was like, mic placements and using echoes and using room sizes for different, let's record down a hallway to get a different echo on a drum or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Like Jimmy was a genius with that stuff, man. Like, I mean, I remember reading in an interview, like, he almost had, and back in '67, I mean, mono recording was still big. Stereo was just starting to come in, and he was already thinking in terms of surround sound in a way, because I heard him say in an interview, like, he wanted to hear sounds like, instead of like being in front of you coming at you, he wanted it to kind of swirl around the room, like even go over your head, behind you, underneath you, and I mean, who the fuck thought of that, man, back then? Right. You know what I mean? I mean, the only other person I could think of was maybe Frank Zappa, really being innovative with like studio technology, because he was really into that. Obviously the Beatles, George Martin, genius too.
And them screwing with like the tracking, like double and backing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then messing around with stereo.
Yeah.
Because when you listen to one of their albums in like full stereo, and especially like a really good set of headphones and maybe on some mind-altering substances, and you can really hear how they were playing with that.
Yeah.
And Hendrix was doing that kind of thing. Like
Hendrix was really pushing the envelope, man.
Certain albums you lose out by having it on mono. Like this, I think you would lose out just mono. Like Magical Mystery Tour and Sgt. Pepper, and that you really lose out with just mono. And you can really hear them messing with that. And then he was so cool about what was the thing I always talk about, that where he like was messing with the mid, like it had the 3 sets on the guitar on the, what's the word I want, I can't think.
Toggle switch.
Yeah, and he like set it where he filed it so you'd have a mid in between each one.
Okay.
But it's like, I'll have to look up the story. It's who's talking about it? Like Dusty Hill or somebody like went to his hotel room. He's like, what are you doing to your guitar? And he's like pulled it all apart and he's filing it so you can get the mids. So I don't know. He just had that brain that he's like probably Brian Wilson level of having all this in his head already. And he just needs to figure out how to make it work so you can hear it the way he wanted to. But
yeah, he said when he was in the Air Force, he was jumping out of airplanes. And
Yeah,
when
he's
he was
like a
parachuting-
bombardier paratrooper.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when he was parachuting, he was going down in the air in a parachute. That's where he said he kind of heard the sound of his guitar
Yeah.
and thought like, "Ooh, I could kind of make my guitar sound like that." You know, that's like when he kind of invented heavy metal, was jumping out of an airplane. He kind of heard the sound. But yeah, it's he's a genius, and like like a real genius. Like,
Oh, true.
yeah.
Not just thrown around.
But also Al said, I think you hit upon something interesting, which I never really thought about, but it's because it's something Jimmy Page did, who's also an amazing producer, about the placements of mics, and that's something Jimmy started doing. He was thinking about where mics were placed, and that's another big difference between how things were recorded then versus how things are recorded. For I wouldn't say all artists. There's some underground, independent artists that still record analog, but in terms of most mainstream artists, is when everything's done by a computer, you're kind of like plugging in, and the outside world is really not involved anymore, and it's not like seeping into the music. And that's another reason why I feel a lot of analog stuff still resonates even with younger people today, is because we're hearing part of reality in the music, if you know what I'm saying, in a way that it like filters out reality now. Like now there is no reality in it. It's just all digital. Whereas when it's analog, it's like you're hearing like one thing like Mutt Lange did with like Back in Black, a technique he did with ambient sound was he would just record the studio empty and then apply that sound to the actual recording as well. So there's actual ambient studio sound in Back in Black, which is one of the reasons why it sounds the way it does, like Hell's Bells and stuff. There's atmosphere to it. That's all you could say. There's just a feeling that you're kind of hearing something that's not just like electronic. There's something real coming through. And that's the thing that Hendrix is very hip to, and all these older recordings. Like you're actually hearing the studio, you're hearing like some live performances, and it's just there's something there that we respond to because it's authentic, and it's like it's nature. It's like involved.
Oh yeah, it's realness, because when you get it from a computer, you can hear, you can tell it's not 100% proof.
Yeah,
but I was also reading where Buddy Holly played a lot with mic placements and double tracking, and that's what they passed on to what we were just talking about.
Well, that's all those early like 50s rock and roll things, like even like in the early 70s, like when John Lennon did like Plastic Ono Band, like he said his like what he was talking to Phil Spector about when they were producing it was listen to those old 50s records, listen to Jerry Lee Lewis, especially his Sun session stuff, his Sun record stuff. He wanted to have that echo. He said there's this echo on Jerry Lee Lewis's piano that he wanted on there. Like, so, they were all thinking this way. These artists were not just exploiting the sound and the space around them, but they were very aware of it, and they were like, let's utilize it. Whereas now it's just like, oh, plug it in, and the program does most of the work for you.
Yeah.
But you're just not as proactive as an artist as well.
I was, it's so funny, and then we'll get back to the list, but I was watching Bob Dylan's 30th anniversary concert, and it was it was there in the backstage, and it was him and Clapton, George Harrison, and Neil Young. They were all around Neil Young's an amp that Neil Young had made, and they were looking in the back of it and the way that Neil Young had done it, and he turned it on. George Harrison started stepping back because he didn't know what was going to happen.
I wouldn't trust Neil Young making an AM.
It makes it sound.
Yeah, I'd be worried.
Just start stepping back. It was just a funny clip on there. It was pretty good.
But that's rock and roll.
Yeah. And we're about to hit the last track on side one. The Eric classic by The Doors, Light My Fire, against Don't Live Here Today. Solid tracks, but one of them is really one step above the other at this moment. Kate, what's your go on this?
Light My Fire. This song just cooks. Start to finish. This one, I mean, I was teasing, I was joking with Nick. I was like, the Doors make the organ cool, man. And it really is. Like, they really made the organ cool. That to have that in a rock or like a psych band or something, I feel like wasn't really done so much. Like the old rock dudes, like going from like country folkish into like rock. Sure, they would have organs and stuff, but nothing like the Doors, man.
Right.
Like Ray Manzarek is just, come on, it's crazy what the guy can do on the keys and that, and it's, yeah, I don't know. This song just cooks. It lights your fire. I know.
Yeah.
Not to be a nerd like that, but it's like, damn, it's such a good song. It's such an iconic song for them.
It is. You're right about that.
Yeah.
Al, what's your take on this one?
Yeah, I gotta go Light My Fire as well. It's just one of the many Doors epics, and yeah, like the hypnotic quality of Ray's organ on this, but I mean Robbie, when he comes in with the solo too, it's pretty iconic.
Yeah.
I love Robbie's solo on it. Again, like it's like a signature Doors song. I mean, you still hear it on classic rock radio all the time, and it's not to take away from Hendrix though, because again, it's an amazing song as well. But yeah, this is such a signature Doors song. I just can't ignore it and not pick it, So I'm going with "Light My Fire" on this one. I don't really need to go any further on it. Like everybody knows the song. So go ahead, Ed.
Yeah, this is where the track versus track thing is kind of unfair sometimes, because like "Don't Live Today" is an awesome song. It's one of my favorite songs on the album. If it was maybe up against one of the other songs, it might have won, but it's up against "Light My Fire," so it's got to lose, because "Light My Fire," yeah, it's one of the most amazing pop rock songs ever written. It's strangely, it's one of the songs that doesn't actually have burnout factor for me. It should. I mean, I've heard this song, I don't know, like a billion times in my life. It was one of the songs that I heard as a wee child that got me into the Doors. And there's just something about the song. There's something, you hear it and it's like you're in the summer of love. There's just a vibe to it. It's that vibe. And I also love a lot of jazz, and like, think John Coltrane's like my favorite things and things like that, which this takes a cue from. And it's just, there's everything about it. This is actually kind of the ultimate Doors song, because they all shine,
Yeah.
You're right.
They all have their moment, and it's amazing. And Robbie Krieger wrote it. He wrote it. He actually always wrote the poppier songs, but Jim Morrison's phrasing, takes it in a way that maybe another singer wouldn't have. That's the thing. And it's an amazing song. It's one of the greatest pop rock songs ever written. It's like this is the thing too. It's like it's an experimental song. It's jazzy. It's different and fresh, but yeah, it was really catchy. I mean, this is a #1 Billboard top #1 hit.
Wow.
And you know what? I still think maybe more modern production or whatever, but this still be a hit today. It's that catchy. It's just a catchy, perfect song,
Yeah.
And this was Robbie Krieger, first song he ever wrote. Picked up a guitar, had to compete with Jim Morrison, who was like writing all the songs. He's like, okay, I better write a song. Picks up a guitar. This kid picks up a guitar and writes "Light My Fire." That kind of shit was happening in the 60s, where shaggy-haired kids picked up guitars and wrote "Light My Fire."
That's crazy.
Step up your game nowadays. Come on.
That's crazy to think about that, man.
Yeah.
It is.
I remember the famous Ed Sullivan, where they're supposed to change the lyrics, and they, obviously Jim was a rebel.
And if you watch a performance, it's great. And look how great Jim looks, and they sound so great. And
straight to the camera.
Although I always think in the movie too. I always think of Frank Wiley playing Rob Krieger, going, "You know that it would be untrue." Be a lie. But it's one of the greatest pop rock songs ever written. To deny it is denying science. What do you say, Andy?
What I say is that I love the Doors, but I am going to go with Light My Fire, but this is the one of my favorite parts ever in any Doors song is when Robbie Krieger takes over,
That's
from
amazing
that
solo.
keyboard, and he takes over and I mean, and the dude's just on fire,
Yep.
you
Great.
know. And then some more with his drum rolls getting heavier as he's playing the guitar. It's just my favorite part. He just takes over the song,
Oh yeah.
and it's like Ray's handing over the baton to him.
It's
And
real like jazz musicianship, like that stuff. Like it sounds like something like
Yeah.
John McLaughlin would do, like a solo like that, you know. And this is even before he started playing with Miles, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're playing at that level. Like you rock, these guys didn't play, and nothing against. I'm not like I love rock music, but these guys are playing like jazz musicians. They're playing at
Yeah.
a different level.
And I just love that part, and that's one of my favorite Doors part is that right there. So I am going to go with Light My Fire, and that was a complete sweep
Yep.
for the Doors on that one. So we flip the album. We go to side 2, and Backdoor Man Against the Wind, Cries Mary. Another great track against track. I've been doing the albums on BS sessions with Mark and Jerry. We just did Night Ranger on Monday, and we put together our own albums. And I've been putting key tracks on side 2 because when you flip an album, you want to keep that excitement going. You want to keep an album going strong. So that's what I think about these 2 songs. They're keeping the album going strong. Backdoor Man Against the Wind, Cries Mary. What are you going with, Kate? This is a good one. Like all the others.
I get what you mean. Like you do the flip and then you want it to still be up to keep the engagement.
Yeah.
On the flip. Yeah. And
you want part 2 to be just as
strong as part 1. Backdoor Man still is cooking. I like his voice in that a lot, but I did go with Wind Cries Mary. I think that's one of Hendrix's best ballads. He just, I don't know, there's something so serene and soothing about that one, and the lyrics and just the way the song sounds, and then you can really hear him getting into that like deeper blues vibe in his playing, where it's really almost muted for him, but it's still good. It's still technical. Like I don't know. I just really dig this song a lot, and that's one of my favorite Hendrix songs, despite this whole album. But it's like up there in my list of loving Hendrix, which you guys know I adore Hendrix. I think he's like the best guitarist ever. But yeah, I don't know. I had to go with Wind Cries Mary, but Backdoor Man still, that's a cooking song. I mean, especially for a flip, like it is very different, 2 very different songs. Because on a flip, to have like a hot song versus this is like a cool down, chill out kind of song to come into on the flip. But it picks up after this one, so I guess that's how they played it, But, yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Which way are you gonna go with this?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Jimi on this one, man. The Wind Cries Mary. We all think of Jimi as that bombastic, guitar player and everything, but when he really like brings it back and he like lays a nice ballad on you. I mean, I love his ballads, and this is one of my favorites that he's done. Wind Cries Mary is just so beautiful, and one of the best solos I think he ever put down on tape. I love that solo. Just fits the song so well. It's just, to me, like, when I hear this song, I kind of just reminds me of like just kind of watching a sunset or something, and laying on a beach somewhere and just being alone and just kind of watching the sunset, and having this song as like the soundtrack is like the perfect setting, and I mean, Jimi just rules on this one. I do love Backdoor Man though, but I'm giving a nod to Jimi on this one. And I think is Backdoor Man, is that a cover or is that
Yeah, that's a Howlin' Wolf song.
Howlin' Wolf, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Howlin' Wolf.
And again, the Doors made it their own. Obviously, just like the sign of a great band, usually makes covers their own. So, but yeah, When Cries Mary. I mean, that's one of the best Jimi songs, man. I got to go with that one. Go ahead, Ed.
Yeah, I gotta go with Jimi too. Although I just want to say I do love Backdoor Man.
Oh yeah,
it's a great cover. I wouldn't say it's better than the Howlin' Wolf version, but it's just as good. It's just as good. The Howlin' Wolf one's a little rawer, but this one's a little more grand and epic. It's like I love that scene in the movie where they open up the concert with it, and they did sometimes open concerts with it, and you can see like the build up.
Yeah,
it has that great build up, and Jim really sells it. It's the lyrics, the way he sings the lyrics, even the chicken stuff. It's all great. I love it, but yeah, it's kind of unfair because there's such different kinds of songs. But When Cries Mary, it's one of Jimmy's most beautiful ballads. It's just a deeper, more kind of emotionally riveting kind of song. I get a lot of feeling from that song. So I definitely would go with the When Cries Mary. That being said, though, I do respectfully disagree with you, Andy. I don't think this should be. This is the only issue I have with the U.S. track listing. For the most part, we didn't really discuss this, but there's a UK version that doesn't have singles, and there's the U.S. version, which we're picking, which is more fair because it'd be like the Doors without like Light My Fire, Break On Through, But yeah, Hey Joe, Purple Haze, and the When Cries Mary were not on the UK version because they were singles, and they did the UK, like with the Beatles albums, they didn't like putting the singles on the albums.
Right.
But and I think they actually picked, even though I like all the songs that they kicked off, I remember in those like songs, they're good songs, but they were kind of right. They picked the right songs to remove from the album though. So for the most part, I agree. And I understand why Purple Haze kicked off Foxy Lady as the opening track. On the UK version, Foxy Lady opens it. And I understand. I would go with Purple Haze as well as the opening track. That being said, this is where I have an issue with the US track list. I feel Foxy Lady should be the opening song for the second track. To me, that's Foxy Lady should kind of, you hear that sound rising and it's kind of the Backdoor Man for this, And it's just such a strong track, and I think you want a hot track as an opening track for a second.
Exactly.
Track. And then it would go really nicely into the When Cries Mary, which would be a beautiful contrast to Foxy Lady. And then those last two psychedelic tracks would be 1, 2, next to each other. And I think that would work. I think that would work really well, Third Rock, and
right, Dirt Stone and Our Experience.
Yeah, I think they would work well together. So, so I have an issue. I feel like Foxy Lady should have opened the second side. But
we were just talking about the flow.
Yeah, I think that would have had a stronger flow, especially in terms of, obviously, when we listen to this as a digital file, it doesn't really matter. But for the vinyl, this is when you become aware of it. I feel like that flip should be on Foxy Lady, in my opinion. So I disagree with the track listing there. That digression aside, still. The When Cries Mary is a beautiful song. I just don't think a ballad should open up a second side.
No, especially after the other two tracks that ended side 2 kind of had that same kind of vibe as well.
Yeah, you had the maybe side 1. Yeah, I would space it out a little more, and I just think Foxy Lady would be a really strong B side. I'd be a kickoff. But so regardless, either way, I would probably give Jimmy the win. So so here you go. When Cries Mary. So what do you think, Andy?
I'm gonna be the lone wolf on this one. I'm gonna go with Backdoor Man on this one.
Oh, so you do like a hot track opening?
Yes, I really do. I love the way that Jim Morrison's just a madman on this song.
Yeah,
I mean, you're like, what the hell is this dude screaming about? But I love it.
He's more freaking than any man's ever seen.
I mean, he's on the edge of that stage, just screaming the shit out of this, man, and I love it. It's raw, it's dirty, and the band is just there keeping the time, and he's up there just screaming his lungs out. So I went with Backdoor Man. Even though I do like the When Cries Mary, I never changed the radio when it comes up. I never skip it when it comes on, but when it went against Backdoor Man, to me there was no comparison. It was just again the way that side two was kicked off. It was kicked off with some kick ass energy on it. So I went with Backdoor Man, but still I might have picked Backdoor Man, but the When Christ Mary wins 3-1.
It made me feel bad for picking the ballot.
That's right.
Wrong case.
And really, Charlie, you're gonna knock off the lamp. Move.
No.
Get out of here. Move, Charlie. All right, we're going to track 2 on side 2. The Doors went with "I Looked at You" against "Fire" by Hendrix.
Right, this is like the one scenario.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, where I don't think that hashtag applies. The only time.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll see what you guys think.
Okay, what
Yeah,
do you think?
I Looked at You has this like calliope music feel to it to me, and that kind of tunes me out. That I'm like the carnival-y kind of sounding stuff going on. I'm like, compared to Fire, which is legit fire. Come on, this song is ridiculous.
Stop acting so crazy.
I mean, it's just you guys know it. It's a killer track. It cooks soup to nuts. This song is like in your face. It's so freaking good. Yeah, I don't know. This I wanted to ask because I said there's so many that sync up almost. So if you had to pick Light My Fire over Fire, that's a way tougher call. So if we change the order of things, how Ed was saying, if you switch some stuff up, like that'd be a lot tougher call. But I Looked at You compared to Fire is no question. That was instantly, I just knew what I wanted. So yeah, I don't know. I can go on and on. You guys know how awesome this song is. So I'm going to stop talking.
If we went that scenario, I'd still go with Light My Fire.
Ooh, all right. I want to know what else you guys think.
Oh, that'd be tough. I think I'd still go with Light My Fire, but I feel bad about it.
I feel bad.
Right.
I'm sorry, Jimmy.
Whereas I wouldn't feel bad. Not saying what I'm saying yet, but I don't feel bad about it.
I think Light My Fire is probably a bigger hit. Definitely.
Yeah, there's just a feeling to it. Although it's like some of these songs, it's kind of unfair to compare because it's
right.
Even though they are both fire and they are kind of the corresponding song that way. One's like a hot rock and hard rockin' track, and the other is like a trippy, jazzy, poppy, summer of love kind of jam. So it's a little different. I think ultimately I'll go for the deeper jam, but god damn it, Fire. I don't let me hold back because Al's got to talk about first.
Yeah.
Al, what would be your pick between the two if you had them? Light My Fire versus Fire.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
I think I'd probably give the edge to Light My Fire as well. But again, that would be like a real tough call. But that's the beauty of doing these track by tracks. You're pitting up, you're going in order. So
right.
I mean, Fire definitely wins this one. This is an easy pick, like you guys said. One of Jimmy's signature songs as well. You could just picture him on that stage, like throwing a lighter fluid on the Strat, just like and fucking going up in flames, dude. And I mean, this song just cooks, man. It's like speed metal, like it was speed metal, really.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But yeah, man. I mean, dude, like we were talking about earlier, man. I mean, this, like Annie was saying, and Ed, and like this was definitely like a proto metal album, man. I mean, this, people talk about, I mean, obviously Sabbath brought it all together, but I mean, this was heavy. I mean, I with these albums, I always try to put myself in the mindset of like, what would I think if I was a teenager in 1967 hearing this for the first time? And I mean, people's mouths must have been wide open, man, to the floor. hearing this stuff, man. They must have been like, what planet is this guy from? That's why all these other guitar players were just like, I guess there's an underlying jealousy. They were just like, who's this cat that's like, just just completely destroying us. You know what I mean? And but Fire, man, I could just see Jimmy just, fuck you, man. This is me, and nobody's touching me right now. So, whatever, man. Fire. Nobody. The Doors can't hit that. Can't even compare to this one, man.
Yeah. And I looked at you. This is the thing. This is the only thing I'll say overall. The U.S. version of our experience, maybe not so much the U.K. version, but the U.S. version, there is not any track that I would describe as filler.
No.
This is the one song on the Doors debut that I would call filler. It's not bad, but it's filler. It's definitely the weakest track on the album.
Yeah, even when I was a kid, even when I was a kid listening to this album, this song didn't really connect with me. It was a throwaway. It was a filler track before I even knew what the term filler was.
Yeah, and it's the only one. It's the only song I would describe as filler. Yeah. So, whereas I don't think our experience has any filler tracks. So you got a filler track up against actually one of the strongest tracks on our experience. So, so this is obviously a slaughter. But the Fire, it's heavy, like you guys all brought up. It's very heavy. But also, again, Jimmy kind of brings, there is a soul influence, especially with the kind of call and response, like chorus, with it's got these white boys calling back to him. It's great. Jimmy not only is making them play their asses off, he's got them calling back to him like they're in a soul band, and and it's funky. It's both heavy and funky at the same time, which is something I love. And that bass is great. Everything's great. And Jimmy and this, that great moment where it goes, move over Rover and let Jimmy take over. It's one of the great. I can only imagine. I'm surprised. Technically, this was not a single, but that's kind of surprising. I mean, obviously, later on with classic rock radio, it kind of became a de facto kind of single. But at the time, it was not a single. But it's just like, it's an amazing track. It's one of the best songs on the album, and that's saying a lot in this album. And it's just like, God, this is just a hot track. If a band did this now, you'd be like, God damn, and just and listen to Mitch Mitchell's drums too, man. Oh, he's just he's fucking going to town. He's just banging the shit out of that thing,
I saw Mitch Mitchell a month before he passed away. He did one of the Experience Hendrix tours, and I'm glad I got to see him live at least once. But at that point in his life, I mean, the fire, no pun intended, was pretty much gone from his playing. He wasn't the fiery drummer. You could just tell that, he wasn't even the main drummer in the Chris Layton from Double Trouble, Stevie Ray Vaughan was the main drummer, and Mitch came out a couple songs, played along with him and stuff, but it just wasn't the Mitch Mitchell of old. That being said, I'm so glad I got to see him live once. And then I remember like a month or two later, he passed. And I was like, wow, that's, and like thinking back on that performance, I'm like, yeah, he didn't look well or, and whatever. But, anyway, I didn't mean to derail you there, Ed. I just wanted to.
No, I was wrapping
up. Mitch Mitchell's drumming on those albums are like just unbelievable, man. I mean, he's such an awesome drummer.
Yeah, that's the thing too, and I think it's because when I was younger, obviously the focus goes to Jimmy, so I was like focusing a lot on Jimmy.
Yeah.
Now listening to this album, especially since I hadn't listened to it in a while, just listening to it even more so, and I love song for song. I actually like Axis and the Electric Ladyland a little bit better, but Axis is my favorite. Actually, but I gotta say, and in terms of studio albums, actually, the Band of Gypsy is probably my favorite overall. But like, not only do I think this is the most innovative and important of the Jimi Hendrix albums, but Mitch Mitchell's drumming is like really on the forefront of this album, even more so than the other two. But maybe Jimmy mixed him down a little bit. It's like, you're getting too loud. But he was just like, you listen to this, I was just like, wow, Mitch Mitchell, this guy, people don't talk about enough.
Mm-hmm.
Heavy and funky. And he's Fire's another great example of him keeping the beat while doing all this crazy shit.
All the other stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. It's made the whole song. There's hot. I mean, I can only imagine there's a time like they're doing this track. You imagine playing this track, listening back. It's 1967.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, think of what music sounded like just a couple of years ago, you know, before that. And yeah, they obviously knew. They knew right then and there that they were like changing the world with their music, you know?
Oh yeah, they had to have known that they hadn't heard anything like this before, and they were doing it themselves. These three guys.
Yeah, they're like, shit, what did we do? We're doing shit we never heard before.
Yeah.
We're blowing
They were
our
probably
own
tripping
mind.
on themselves. Man, we're awesome. I've never heard of this before.
That's Jimmy. That's why he says, move over, Rover. Jimmy's taking over. Jimmy's acknowledging his awesomeness in real time.
Of arriving. Yeah.
The drugs were probably really good back then too, man.
Yeah, I mean, actually, the drugs were probably useful because it didn't freak them out so much. Like if they weren't on the drugs, they would hear this and go, "Oh my god, what the fuck's going on? Why are we making this futuristic music that no one's ever heard before?" But the drugs made it sound a little more normcore for them, so it helped.
And then when they did the playback, they're all like, "What the hell is this?" You know?
Yeah, but it came down the next day. They were like, "What fucking kind of music this isn't Chubby Checkers. What the fuck is this? Are we gonna go gold with stuff like this?"
But I am going to go with Fire, believe it or not. You know, that song, it comes and goes so fast. It's like a blur. It's kind of like Communication Breakdown by Led Zeppelin.
Yeah,
You
in
know
and out.
you know that little 2-minute plus
Get your point
that
across.
is like
and get
so
out.
important.
Yeah, paranoid. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you know, and it's so important. And of course, we know the song so well, but like Ed was saying, it is just an album track. It's not a hit single, you know, it's an album track. But of course, you know, FM radio plays it. It's on so many of his live albums, which is, if people want to really hear Jimmy, his live setting is really amazing. With that being said, it was a clean sweep for Fire on that one. The next track, we are going to End of the Night against Third Stone from the Sun. Which way are you going to go with this one, Kate?
This one I picked Third Stone. I don't know. This one's a tougher one. This one's two songs that I don't listen to as much, but listening to them again for this episode was like, all right, Third Stone. I don't know. There's just something about it that's one that I feel like is another one that's not paid attention to as much, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, what did I say? I think I said that about Manic Depression, that I like, it's a great song and it kind of just gets pushed aside. Like his Ripper tracks are the ones that get the most attention usually, but it's still a great song. I think End of the Night's good. I don't know. This one was a tough one, but I went Third Stone.
Yep.
Yeah.
Al, which way are you going to go on this one?
I'm gonna give the edge to Third Stone from the Sun as well. We all live on it, and you know what I mean. And like, you know, I mean, it's like, you know, one of them sleeper tracks too on the album. You know, again, like the Jimmy, like Ed was saying, the Jimmy album doesn't have no filler at all in terms of songs and all that stuff. And but the Doors' song is good too. But yeah, I just like Third Stone a bit better. Great guitar playing on there as usual, and that's really it, man. I mean, I don't have, you know, lyrically it's cool, and you know, it's fucking Jimmy, dude. You know, in a way, his rhythm section's white. Like they said, a white man can't jump.
White man can't jump.
It's right there on the cover, man.
Oh man, that's just a picture.
But yeah, man. I mean, Third Stone from the Sun gets the nod from me.
All right.
Yeah, I
Go ahead,
think
Ed.
part of the spooky magic of the experience is it's kind of like the reverse. You got you got the white rhythm section, but you got the black.
Let's go the other way around.
But I got this is a surprise. I love End of the Night. It's a great song. It's a great late night. Now that's actually after you get home drunk. After the
That's after the walk home, right?
That's a soundtrack, man.
That's
soundtrack for your night.
Yeah, that's when you're back home, back at your place. But anyway, as great as that song is, I gotta go with Third Stone. There's just something really magical about that song. It's very trippy, it's cool, and just the vibe. Just got lost into it, and it's just like that's the thing. A lot of times, I'm not always, even though I love jazz, I'm not a big fan, historically speaking, of rock instrumentals. Usually, I don't think rock musicians are kind of good enough. They're good at their thing, but not to the point that jazz musicians are, that they can kind of make music interesting without vocals for like 3 or 4 minutes. There's some exceptions, obviously. But this would be one of them. And I guess not entirely. I mean, technically, maybe not count as instrumental because there's some spoken word stuff. But I think of it as an instrumental. You know?
I think of it as an instrumental too.
Yeah, but there's just so much going on that it's always interesting. It's always interesting. You just get kind of lost in it. Definitely a good song to zone out to. I would not recommend driving while this song's on. But it's a really cool song. Again, the production, 1967.
Yeah.
And this is very innovative, awesome. I like a great space rock track. I don't know if you guys are hip to like the early 70s space rock band, Hawkwind.
Oh, yeah.
Lemmy was a member of, big fan of them. And it's kind of like this, like they call that subgenre progressive rock, space rock. Well, I'd call this is space rock. This is proto space rock.
Again,
a lot of protos here,
exactly.
But this is great space rock track. I love it. What do you think, Andy?
Third Stone from the Sun, easily for me. I love instrumentals. I'm not that much into jazz, so I really don't compare the rock instrumentals to jazz instrumentals. But I'm a big fan of Zappa when he does instrumentals, which can be jazz rock.
Yeah, well, I kind of consider Zappa's instrumentals jazz.
Yeah, but there's a lot of rock fusion in those.
Yeah, well, I consider fusion, but I agree. Yeah, Zappa's definitely on another level. I love his shit.
Yeah. So I think it's great, especially a instrumental like this, because even though there's a little bit of spoken word, there's barely any spoken word, to me, in my opinion, to change the vocabulary to anything else but a instrumental. But I really, and to me, it wasn't even an edge. It was pretty easy for me to pick Jimi Hendrix on this one. So Third Stone from the Sun for me. Second to last track, we're going to, from the Doors, Take It As It Comes against Foxy Lady. I'm not going to say anything.
This is another one where
I'll read The Witness.
What'd you say?
An interesting one. So what do you think, Kate?
Oh, this is another one that if you synced it up different, that if it was 20th Century Fox versus Foxy Lady, and that I got to go Foxy Lady. This is always in my brain, probably because Wayne's World, probably the first place I ever heard it, maybe not, but where you first think about it at my age anyway, that is like, oh, damn, like this is an awesome song. That could definitely be on the flip as the first song on the flip, like you said. Yeah, because I was thinking about it when you were talking about it, that's a hot track that has that building kind of thing happening again. Yeah, I mean, it's Foxy Lady. That's all I got to say about it. That's my pick.
Yeah, I'm going Foxy Lady on this one as well. It's the killer song by Jimmy. Take It As It Comes is a good song, though. I think the Ramones actually covered that one, too.
Oh, wow.
On the last album that they did.
Second to last. It was on Mondo.
Second to last. It wasn't on Adios Amigos. It was on the one before. Yeah, Mondo Bizarro, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, that's a really good album.
Yeah, actually,
title for the last album.
that's their last good album anyway. The other one I have issues with, but that's a whole other.
Yeah,
If you do a Ramones episode, bring me on, Andy.
yeah, definitely bring me on that too. I love the Ramones.
Yeah, same here. They did a good cover. Yeah, it's a good cover.
But Foxy, man, come on, man. It's Foxy Lady. It's iconic. It's Jimmy. It's his guitar playing is killer on it. I don't really have much to say about it, man. I mean, everybody knows the song, man. So, I'll keep it short on that one. Go ahead, Ed.
Okay, this is the case where it's the track battle that makes the difference here. There's only 4 songs that Foxy Lady won against. It would not win. This is gonna surprise people, but this is one of them. Yeah, Take It As It Comes wins for me. Take It As It Comes is actually my second favorite song on this album.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite Doors songs. I know it's like a deep track to love. Something about the song, ever since even back when I was a kid, it's just feeling about it. It's just so catchy. This is a song that I think could have been a single. It's just really catchy. It's immediate. I can see why the Ramones covered it. It's like proto punk rock. It's just really catchy and there's this feeling. I like the message to the song. I like the message of just taking things as it comes. You go with the flow. It's kind of how I live life. So it's kind of a mantra to me too. But I just love the vibe. It's kind of different. The Doors would never quite do a song that sounded quite like this again. Still has a little, I would say, a little element of almost Beach Boys like surf California rock kind of vibe to it.
Oh, okay.
And you wouldn't really hear that from them again, even starting with the next album. But I don't know. It's just something about it. I mean, Foxy Lady, yeah. I mean, what can you say about it? It's one of the greatest rock songs ever. It's funky. It's hard rocking. It's an Edwin kind of song that normally I would go for, but just not against Take It As It Comes. It's just one of my favorite songs. Something about it. So I'm gonna give it to the underdog there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's really crazy. The first time you heard Foxy Lady, it's like you've heard it before. It's like always been in your life, But I am going to go with Foxy Lady. I think it's one of Jimmy's great tracks. It's a really good song, and there's not much to say about it because everyone's heard it, and it still sounds good. Jimi Hendrix is that kind of artist that you've heard these songs so many times and you don't get burnt out. You don't change and say, ugh, Foxy Lady again. Hell no, you're going to crank it up. I'm coming to get you. So I'm going with Jimi Hendrix on there. So Foxy Lady wins that one. But with Ed saying Take It As It Comes, I'm definitely going to go back to that track and give it a closer listen.
Yeah, it's great. Objectively, I could say, yeah, Foxy Lady deserves to win.
Yeah, of course, but still,
that's just a purely subjective choice. It's just something about Take It As It Comes. It's just like a song I really connect with, and I always love it. It's just
right, but it's worth. Yeah, but that's worth going to go give another listen to if you feel that strongly about it. All right, last track on this album. This is nuts.
Oh yeah.
This
is kind of like where it began at the beginning. Like where you got these 2 really strong statements.
Yeah, like Kate said, this has
the bookends on this were really tough.
And man, a great album has the last track that after you finish hearing it, say, damn, that was a badass album. So that last track keeps it going. We're going with The Doors, The End, against Are You Experienced by Jimi Hendrix and The Experience. Last track we talked about, Kate, which way are you going?
These bookends, man, it's tough. These, oh my gosh, yeah. I don't know. So I went with The End because I like Morrison when he gets in his deep, spooky voice and that, even though they're singing stuff on this, I feel like this is soundscape. Like I've talked about that before, where certain songs just put you in that scene of whatever is going on. So this is one for me that definitely does that. That it gets you in that headspace. The whole song throughout has that sound to it that just is so like macabre. And I don't know, I love spooky shit. I love New Orleans music. I love all the weird voodoo-y stuff. Or he was more into like Native American kind of folklore in that, but I like any kind of death stuff is interesting to me. Are You Experienced? Obviously, phenomenal track, phenomenal psych track. Like, it's Hendrix. It's great. But in this one, listening to the both of them this last time, I was like, all right, I got to go with the end. My personal choice. Maybe it's not the better song. Maybe. I don't know. Compared to a different song, because this is a ballad versus like how we said that. If we sunk them up differently, then maybe it'd be a different choice. Yeah, I don't know. I just dig this one. Spooky. I love it. Super dark. Yeah. What do you got, Al?
Well, this to me, these two songs against each other to me is the toughest pairing of the night of the two albums for me.
Yeah.
It seemed like the other ones were I could kind of come up with an answer really quick, pretty quick. But this one, I'm gonna go through the two songs first before I give you my choice. So, Are You Experienced? I mean, that's like Jimi really experimenting with the backwards like guitar and you know, I mean, just one of the greatest sight tracks that he's ever done. I heard on the Experience Hendrix tours, Eric Johnson was the one. This was his showcase where he would do that, and he would nail the backwards guitar parts like perfectly, man.
Wow.
In a live setting, yeah, he would go up to the amp with his back to the audience, and he utilize the feedback and volume swells to make the backward guitar sound of that song. Phenomenal track by Jimi. The End. This is the track where I feel Jim. You could tell like his influence on so many other singers. I mean, without him, man, you wouldn't have had Danzig. You probably wouldn't have had Ian Astbury of the Cult. You wouldn't have had probably Bono. I mean, even Bono was influenced by him. Iggy Pop. I mean, shit, countless singers were influenced by Jimi and by Jim, and I feel like this is a song that they point to as like this is where the darkness and the Lizard King and it all like kind of congeals and comes together. And it does. It's one of those songs like Kate was saying. Like you listen to it, you paint the picture in the movie in your mind as the song is going. And it's pretty fucked up, man.
It's hard to, yeah.
I mean, it's. I mean, again, put yourself in 1967 and hearing this song for the first time. You have to scare the shit out of people, man. You know what I mean?
I mean, they didn't even make movies like this back then.
Yeah, and like, this is Jim at his like darkest and sinister. It's just, and I feel like it's the soundtrack. If the world was ending, this would be the perfect song to have on in the background. That being said, I'm gonna go with The End, man. The End has got to win this one. As much as I love Are You Experienced and I love the experimentation on that, this song when I was a kid hearing it really, really maybe it warped my mind a bit. I don't know, but I could listen to this song over and over and just like it was like a movie in my head, man. Like I'm walking down the hall, you just like you can picture him walking down the hall, opening up the door. And the rest is, you guys can kind of figure it out, but but The End, man, I got to go with The End on this one. Just it's one of the many great epic Doors tracks, man, and I feel like this one is like probably the top of the
best one,
the best one, man.
Yeah,
so that's my take. Go ahead, Ed.
Yeah, like Al said, this actually was my toughest one too. They're both amazing tracks. I love both of them. Are You Experienced? Very innovative, all the backwards stuff. I mean, the Beatles were doing some stuff similar on Revolver, but still, Jimmy kind of took it to the next place. Great guitar licks, amazing song. But likewise, I'm going with The End. And we talked about this a little bit in that podcast episode, and by a little bit, I mean a lot. It's like the first. It's actually, when you think about it, it's the first epic last rock song. Because this album, this is the thing in the Doors, it might have one filler track, but one thing it does have an edge on both our experiences and Sgt. Pepper is it came out several months before. The Doors first, this album came out January of 1967.
Mm-hmm.
Sgt. Pepper and Our Experience in the UK came out in May. So the Doors had a good, and it's funny because nowadays you think a couple months that's nothing, but in '67 a couple months is a fucking musical revolution.
Yeah.
And the Beatles were still, Jimmy and the Beatles are still in the studio making Are You Experiencing Sgt. Pepper? When the Doors album was out, it was out in the marketplace, and Light My Fire was a big hit. And it influenced them. So even Are You Experiencing is influenced by the Doors, by this album, because it had several months ahead of it. And Day in the Life, obviously that's one of the great last tracks ever.
Yeah.
But Day in the Life wasn't finished until they heard The End. That's the thing. The End is the first epic finale on a rock album. If you listen, you never heard there were cool songs at the end that were innovative, like Tomorrow Never Knows at the end of Revolver, but I wouldn't call that an epic. As awesome and as innovative as that song is, it's still a short song. It does its thing, gets out, it's awesome, but it's not an epic.
Right.
When we think of albums like the way Pink Floyd or Iron Maiden or Metallica, and years later, bands would have the big epic last track.
The finale.
It really is not. There's not another song like this before The End. The End is the beginning. The End, it is the first song that did that. So it's the first 10-minute something grand finale of song. And I still think the best one to this day. As great as all those other finales are, there's just a darkness to the end. You guys brought up the darkness, something we talked about too, and it still resonates now. I feel like because we're in kind of time period. Yeah, we're in a very similar time period to the late '60s and early '70s, and it's just empires are falling. That's the kind of the theme of The End. Is that's kind of it's a metaphor for a lot of things. It started off as a love song that Jim wrote, actually, the lyrics when he broke up with his first girlfriend in high school. But then he took some acid and went out to the desert and suddenly became this bigger end. and that's when he starts talking about, Roman wilderness pain. It hits upon some really big themes. And I don't want to get too deep or take us too off the tracks, but I'm just saying.
No, man, I'm loving this, man.
I'm just saying, while we're kind of in real time experiencing kind of a fall of an empire, that there's something about The End that just I find really resonates. This is it. Not everything ends. Not to bring people down, but everything ends. Whether it was the Greeks or the Romans, you got the Renaissance, you got America in the 20th century, maybe not so much in the 21st century. and that's the thing, everything ends. Eventually the earth will end. The sun will consume it. Again, not to bring you down, but just saying that this song it's kind of in a lot of ways the most important song ever written. It's the song that's kind of telling everyone, because Jim, being a very highly intelligent man, out in the desert thinking about lost love and empires falling and Oedipus and whatever that's going through his mind, he touched upon this darker cosmic truth, but it's also liberating because we're thinking if everything ends, then we can just live in the moment, enjoy it, embrace it, and then we'll join the cosmic or whatever. But what I'm saying is The End is the most important song ever written. It's the darkest song ever written. It's not even one of my favorite songs on the album. I like Crystal Ship better. But still, this is the most important song ever written, and it changed music as we know it. And so unfortunately, Are You Experiencing? It's it's tough. It's tough to follow. It's tough to compete against that. So, and it's funny. One last thing is that, with the exception of Maggie McGill, every Doors song at the end of every Doors album is essentially like Jim Morrison going, "This is going to be the last one." Like if you listen to it, it's like the end, over. 5-1, I feel also to a degree. Riders on the Storm. It ended up being Soft Parade. Riders of the Storm, of course, ended up being the actual last one. But I feel like he was recording all these songs. It always felt like it was the last song. It always felt like Jim was going to die at that moment. Like he could die at the end of the end, and it'd be like
that's all that he had to say.
That's all I got to say. They said,
I think he knew,
I'm still alive. I got to do that again. Okay, when the
Yeah.
is over, I'm still alive. Okay, I'll do it one more time. So he kind of kept doing it until finally it happened. But
there's a killer on the road.
finally, that was the one. Riders on the Storm finally was the one where it actually was the last song. But the end is, it's amazing. It's one of the greatest pieces of art from the 20th century. So there you go, mic drop. What do you think, Andy? You like it? It's a good tune.
I like it. No, I'm kidding. But yes, that was kind of a tough one for me. I didn't even pick one.
You didn't pick one?
Oh, well, of course. Of course, I'm going to go with the end, but I was so... I didn't even check it off. Those two were hard for me to pick, but now after hearing about the end, he defines the word "the end." It's
you didn't even say the end without thinking of the Doors. And this show, the Beatles actually has a song. They have a song called "The End."
Yeah,
that they did a couple of years later. But you don't think of that as the end. You think of the Abbey Road Suite. You think of it as But you don't think when you say the end, you don't think of the Beatles the end. You think of the Doors the end.
Oh yeah, of course, easily. Yeah. And then you think of, I think it's also in Apocalypse Now.
Yeah, amazing.
When they're going for the attack, when they're all going towards, I guess they were going towards Cambodia, I believe, when they're going with the ships and the helicopters, and that song's just playing, the bass line, the drumming, boom, boom, boom. It's just, it's a great track, and I will go with the end. After thinking about it and hearing y'all talk about it, it says a lot. It really does say a lot, and the mood that it does. There's no other song that can really has that kind of creepy
atmosphere.
Mood.
Yeah, the atmosphere in that song is.
It's so brooding and like.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
You see this horror mystery going in your head.
Yeah.
As you hear it, and Morrison's just talking about it.
Yeah.
It's a great track. But with that being said, I'll pick the end. I was tallying everything at the end. The winner is going to be Jimi Hendrix Experience. Al had Jimi 6-5. Ed had Jimi 7-4. And the same thing with Kate. Had Jimi Hendrix 7-4. And I too had Jimi 7-4.
Yeah, that seems about right. Even though I think the end overall is like the most important song, and like
out of all of them, yeah, it's like,
and I'd say Like My Fire is probably the catchiest. So those are like the two pinnacles. But overall consistency, in terms of consistency and innovation, I think our experiences have the edge. So that seems fair to me.
Yeah, and in fact, for me, it was 50-50 on side one. For me, it was 3-3 on side one. But after side two came out, side two really did close the book for me on for our U experience. Well, that does it for our. Yeah, did you want to?
I was just gonna say, if it was the UK version, probably would have been closer. That's to say. If it was the UK version, the Doors probably it would have been a little more neck and neck. But I did think it was fair to not only do the US version because it's the one that's more familiar with people, especially on this side of the pond, but also because it has singles, whereas the Doors album did have singles, and so it just seemed like that was a fairer fight. So, but
those damn US trackers.
I feel like it would be more neck and neck, actually.
Those Those
And
damn US track listings, man, they fuck everything up.
right.
They don't, hey, people want to hear the hit songs. What are you talking about? You crazy?
They're ruining our lives 45 years later.
Miss America. We want our hits.
America. They want to hear the hit song.
The hits only. So
I
I'm
only
not
like
that
what I hear on the
familiar with
radio.
the UK version. Did that also have 11 tracks as well?
Yeah,
There's
a
like-
lot- yeah.
There's one you can get that has like the 15 that has all the singles.
Yeah, well, that's
Right.
what I found on my computer.
16 with the singles.
I took what I did. I have the US track listing, which I think is a superior version. I have that, but I did take the bonus tracks because I'm OCD of music. I created I call it the Stone Free EP. I created like an EP, which has the B-sides. Stone Free was a B-side. That seems crazy to me. It should actually. That's the only thing could have pushed RE Experience made it even better, because Stone Free is actually my favorite song from that era. I love Stone Free.
Yeah.
It was the B-side for Hey Joe. That was the first single. God,
Wow.
imagine that. Imagine, and it was late 66. Imagine late 66 in the UK. America didn't get it yet, but you're some English kid and you get Hey Joe, and then you flip it, it's fucking Stone Free.
Stone Free.
Yeah.
Stone Free.
I mean, God, Stone Free is so funky and rock.
It's so different than anything else at the time.
Yeah, so I love that track a lot. But and then I also have the other B-sides, Highway Child. That's a great song too. That was a great B-side. And the 3 tracks that were removed from the UK version. So together that makes for a nice 6-song EP. So I recommend if people want to do something with their B-sides, you get a nice EP. I like listening to an album more that way. I don't like listening to an album and then going into bonus tracks, especially albums that, like this album, that like our experience is designed to be the end. Like it's a real ending track, just like the end is a real ending track.
Yeah.
You don't want to hear a finale and then here's a bunch of other songs. Like,
Exactly. It kind of feels kind of weird where you're like, I really don't want to be listening to the rest of this.
Yeah, if I was listening to that Doors album and the end, if something came on after the end, I wouldn't be able to listen to it. I would just cut it right off.
You need to have it. It stops right where it's supposed to.
You don't want to hear like the early take of Moonlight Drive, like after the end. Like, that's cool, but I'd rather hear it as a separate thing.
Yeah.
So likewise with the Hendrix stuff, I created this like cool little EP. But that just to say, that's cool. And yeah, Stone Free is actually, if it was on RE Experience, would actually be my favorite song in RE Experience. I love that song.
Yeah.
But remember, it's a nice little ballad. There's some good. I mean, they were a pretty decent band, The Experience.
Yeah, they were decent.
So they got a lot of good songs. And then they did stuff like, Axis Bold Love came out the same year, late 67. Late 67.
Wow.
These guys did RE Experience, and then a couple months later, they do Axis.
Amazing.
Endless Love.
That's any of the bands that can pull off 2 amazing albums in a year.
And Axis is like completely different. It's not even like
Axis is totally different.
Yeah.
I forgot. The Doors did that too. At the end of 67, they did Strange Days.
Waiting for the Sun.
No, Waiting for the Sun 68. They did Strange Days.
Oh, Strange Days was before?
Yeah, Strange Days. Waiting for the Sun wasn't much longer though. That was just 68.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all, very short time period.
Yeah.
I mean,
people just knocking shit out.
Yeah, I mean, you can't even like fathom like how quick like these bands like put
Turn
stuff
around.
out. I mean, today it's like 5-6 years between album releases. It's just like
The Beatles did a Sgt. Pepper and Mystery Tour. And I know half the Mystery Tour were singles, but they were all singles that they released that year.
We've talked about a ton of bands that managed to pull that off. They'll have 2 killer albums in a year, and that's all without all the electronic shit like we were talking about.
It got in the way.
You don't have any computers. You don't have any other stuff. It's not overproduced. It's solid.
69.
Yeah.
The first 2 Zeppelin albums are both.
Yeah.
Sabbath, first 2
69.
albums in 70.
Yeah.
Both. Yeah. The first
And the Beatles, they did Let It Be in 79, scrapped it, and said, let's just do another one. And then
Abbey Road, and then they finally pull it off.
Abbey Road.
Like, what?
Yeah.
What?
They're like, let's just scrap this album. Let's just start over.
And then
It's like in Get Back, that
Abbey
doc,
Road.
like, you see all of that happening. And it's like, holy crap, they're writing 2
Yeah.
whole albums at one time. And then just you're like, we'll just put this out
Yeah,
whenever.
and it's so
Not at all.
odd that that with all the technology we have now, it takes years for them to come out with an album that's not even as good as what they were doing within a year.
You know, the Beatles, like for example, like John and Paul, I heard this story about how they wrote Help. Was they had this whole album. Originally, that movie was going to be called Eight Arms to Hold You.
Eight Arms to Hold You.
Yeah. And they were like, we don't really like this title. And they decided, like someone, I forget who it was, but it was like a suit. It wasn't like a creative decision. Some suit decided the movie should be called Help. And they said to John and Paul, hey, we're all thinking this should be called Help instead. That's a punchier title. And, you know, could you write a song called Help? John and Paul go into a room, and in just a couple hours, they come out. They have fucking Help.
Unbelievable, man.
Here you go. Here's Help.
And a song like Help that is
I know. So crazy.
Just such a fun rocker to listen to. But then you hear the lyrics like, "Damn, dude, this dude's in pain."
It works on a lot of levels. Another funny thing is once I was like, is like that same year, 65. I looked at like a Billboard, like the top 10 for like 1965 one month, and it was like Help, California Girls, Like a Rolling Stones, like this was just that week. Like, oh, here are just the pop hits. Like,
Oh my gosh.
This is what the kids are listening to. This is the throwaway pop garbage of 1 week in 65. Had like California Girls, Help, Like a Rolling Stone. It was crazy. I'm looking at this. I was just like,
and still today they were one of the biggest songs in history. They weren't just number 3 or number 4 on the pop list in 1965. They're staples and fabric in our society or in our music society. It's a shame that there's so many kids or 20-somethings that don't experience this.
Kate's kind of young. What are you? You're in your 30s.
Yeah, I'm 35.
There you go. She's relatively young.
Yeah, but I'm a weirdo. Like
my podcast host is 29.
Yeah,
and he listens to older music than me most of the time. I was just like, why do you listen to stuff? You weren't even live yet. He's just like, it's cooler, man. So,
I know that's most of the music I listen to is older and even older than the 60s. Like all the country stuff I like is 60s and back. Like I don't know that. It's funny. I was talking about that today because somebody, like one of my record dudes, posted one of those memes. It's like, oh, all music that's new sucks, kind of machismo crap. And I was like, I like a ton of older music. Like that's what I listen to more, but I'm always open to newer stuff. But a lot of older bands I just like more. Like I'm super, super into Psych, and that's probably like a quarter of my collection's old country and folk stuff. Like that's just what my brain likes.
I think generally the one thing I do like a lot of new music, but most of the new music I like is underground stuff.
Right.
So I usually have to dig for it a little more.
You have to dig.
The difference is this music was pop music. This is music that was like top 10.
Yeah.
Billboard. This was like what basic people.
Yeah, that's what's so funny because it turns around totally in my music taste too. That I'm like more indie bands. 90% of the stuff in the last 20 years that I listened to wouldn't have been on the radio unless it was like college radio or something.
Yeah.
But
that's a lot more indie for me too.
Yeah.
And a lot more than metal or hard rock. I will turn to alternative rock or alternative pop, or it all goes into indie.
I was like growing up, I was a huge punk and ska kid, like a lot of ska music and stuff, and like that's probably my mom was super into jazz. Like my mom is super into jazz and different stuff, so I really had a ton of that layered into my psyche. So I was a huge ska nerd, and you'd never hear any of that on the radio. Like that's stuff that
right.
But
all right, guys,
my late track listing. Oh, okay. I was gonna read it off really quick because that's the black cover with the white writing on the Are You Experienced? So the track listing on that one, still 11 tracks on the regular release that they did, and this one kicks off the top 6. A side is Foxy Lady, Manic Depression, Red House, Can You See Me, Love or Confusion, I Don't Live Today.
Red House is different.
Yeah, Red House is a really different one, and we didn't have that on our release. And then the flip is still 5, and then it's May This Be Love, Firestone from the Sun, Remember, and Are You Experienced still ends it. but it's totally different setup almost, except for Are You Experience lands in the same place and Manic Depression lands in the same place, but everything else is like wherever else, and then there's 3 different tracks. So
like Red House kind of is makes sense as a like where Joe is, because they're both like the bluesy third song. But I gotta tell you, it would have been tough. Like I still would have probably won Crystal Ship, but would have been even tougher because Red House.
Well, and I always wonder if the UK didn't want Hey Joe out, because Hey Joe's kind of controversial. So I'm wondering if that affected the release of how they put that out.
It was actually more just their single policy. They were the same.
Oh,
with
yeah.
Stones and the Beatles. They didn't like. I mentioned this with RCA was a little like this with Elvis in America even, but usually speaking, it was more of a British policy. They didn't like the singles being on the album.
On an album.
So I guess they thought,
well, if you had to buy it separate, they make more money.
They make more money. It's kind of a smarter business model when you think about it.
Yeah, because when you think about the Beatles singles, they weren't on an album, and they did a B-side.
Yeah, and it's great.
Yeah.
When you think about that, like nowadays, like you write these songs, like you write "Hey Jude," but then it's not on the album.
Right. Such a big song, and "I Want to Hold Your Hand" was not on an album.
Yeah. Well, the U.S. did it. Yeah,
the U.S. did it, but it wasn't part of the UK version.
UK, it was never on an album. Yeah, the UK was not against that. But even in the U.S., eventually, because the Beatles were calling the shots, they had so much power. But by the late '60s, even in the U.S., they were following the UK model.
Right.
Hey Jude and Revolution, the electric version of Revolution wasn't on the White Album, So,
right. They were on a 45.
Yeah, whereas that's essentially following the UK model. So they're kind of forcing the US to be like the UK there. But,
right, because after Revolver, it was all just one version, and that was it.
When they decided, they had enough clout at that point.
Yeah.
To stop fucking with our album. Because the Beatles themselves preferred it that way. They didn't like. I mean, they had it ingrained in their heads too, like that UK system. They didn't like the singles being on the albums. They saw them as separate things. Yeah. I have an old-fashioned way of looking at it, but that's just how they looked at it. So
of course, they came out with that great Past Masters that put all the singles and B-sides all together.
Yeah, but the upside to that is you do get more music as a result.
Yeah.
It's just like, maybe there are a couple tracks, like even like you got something like the White Album, like there's some obvious choices that you would remove in place of Hey Jude, like Revolution 9. But you know,
Revolution 1.
Yeah.
Or just Revolution.
I'd prefer the electric version to the acoustic version, like Revolution 1. But at the same time, do you want a world where you don't have these little idiosyncratic, weird? We all get. See, this is the thing. By this point, we get it all anyway. That's the thing. The Hendrix thing. Like I looked at the track listing and go, I'd prefer Foxy Lady to start off side 2. But in the end, we get all the songs.
Yeah.
So we got them all now. So now
it ends up on there somewhere.
Play around with them however we want now.
Yeah. All right, guys, let's wrap things up. Once again, the winner of this vinyl battle was Jimi Hendrix Experience with Are You Experienced? This was a good battle. Thank you so much, you guys, for participating. This was a lot of fun. Thank you, Kate. Thank you so much. Like I said, go ahead and post what you want on Black Spinner.
Yeah, I'll link my pages to the Black Spinner page, and you guys can check out. I do a bunch of raffle stuff. Facebook doesn't like gambling, so they're called waffles. So I do that kind of stuff, and I do auctions and silent sales, like different claim sales and stuff going on. So check me out. Thanks, right. Andy.
You are very welcome. And Al, what's your next concert, Al?
You know that all-female band Plush?
Yes, I do. I saw them back in May.
All right, I'll be seeing them next Wednesday. They're doing a little acoustic set at WDHA here in New Jersey. They every month they've been having a different band, and they call it like a parking lot party, and it's kind of just a select few that get invited. So I got my invite, so I've been to all of them so far.
Al's always on the list.
Yeah,
always on the list.
So I'm going to that. So it's gonna be cool. Like, you know, I think they're like a really good young band coming up. You know, they're pretty talented and stuff. So that would be my next concert. It's next Wednesday. That's really kind of all that's in the agenda right now. So I just saw Roger Waters obviously last night. That show's gonna get posted on my YouTube channel. If not tonight, tomorrow night or whatever. So
and then I'll share that on Black Spinner for sure.
Yeah, and
I
then,
just don't know why I haven't been doing this all this whole time. I don't know why I just clicked this morning.
that's my thing. So
yeah,
you know, Be Cool to Be podcast out YouTube channel. Check it out.
And
thank you for inviting me on this one. This was a good. Yeah, they're all great.
A fun one.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Y'all are such a big part of this. I love doing this, and y'all make it great. Ed, what do you have going on? What's your next YouTube video that you're thinking about, and what's the next album y'all are going to talk about on the Rock and Roll Over You podcast?
On the Rock and Roll All Over You podcast, we already, like, Eric and me recorded a bunch of episodes a couple months ago, so we got them kind of stacked up a little bit. The next one's going to be Kiss Hot in the Shade, so that's going to be fun. It's kind of a comedic one. If you like a lot of comedy, that's a good one. Then we got Rat one after that. We got Smashing Pumpkins one.
Which one are the Pumpkins?
Siamese Dream. Yeah,
my favorite.
Dude, which one?
Siamese Dream.
Oh man, wow, that's gonna be a long one.
Yeah, so we've got that. We're saving that. I thought we should save that for October. You know.
Yeah.
So we're doing that. We're in a couple of weeks. We're going to be recording a new episode for Ralph Vieira, doing the Ramones episode. So that should be good. So we'll have some good stuff there in the coming weeks. My YouTube videos, you know, as you mentioned, I have the 2 Elvis ones up right now. So if we want to learn about Elvis, I got some very informational Elvis episodes. One there that do these beginner guides. And I think what I'm gonna hit next, I'm going to do Saxon. I'm planning to review every Saxon album in one sentence for each one, because they got a lot of goddamn albums. So I thought, okay, this is gonna take long. So I said, well, how about one sentence reviews for each album? So that's, and I already wrote down all the reviews, so it's kind of ready. I'm just waiting for a night where I get myself like good British ale and get my Anglophile on and hit Saxon. And I also want to do Wu-Tang Clan episode, because they are my favorite hip hop band, and I never did Wu-Tang Clan episode. So I think I'm shit. I think I'm thinking Wu-Tang's gonna be after Saxon, but sometimes I kind of go off and
mix it up.
Something might pop up in between. Aren't they from Staten Island, right?
From Staten Island. Yeah. So I'm a big fan. I mix up. Mainly, I do rock music, but I do throw a lot of curveballs. I'll throw an occasional like pop or R&B, country. I'm also a big country fan. Love a lot. I did Waylon Jennings. I did Willie Nelson, and at some point I want to do a Dolly Parton one. I haven't done it. I'm a huge Dolly Parton fan. I don't know if I'll hit that anytime soon, but at some point I'm going to do Dolly.
Yeah.
At some point I'll do Dolly. And but right now I'd like to do jazz. I haven't done a jazz one yet. I want to do a Miles. I'm a big Miles guy. So at some point I'm going to do that too.
That's cool.
So we'll see. But I'm definitely doing Saxon and Wu-Tang are definitely next.
Cool. We seem to have a lot going on. My next, the next time I'm going to do, it'll be next Monday on the 5th, will be a 2-year anniversary of Black Spinner Circle that I started this page. So I think I'm just going to do a solo show and just thank everybody and the different things that we went from me sharing an album that I'm listening to podcasting weekly, and all the people that helped me get there. And next Wednesday, we are going on the Black Spinner Circle. I'm starting a new segment, an alphabet segment. So it's going to be top 10 artists of that start with the letter M. So that episode is going to be called Dial M for Music.
I like it.
So it's going to be the top 10 artists or bands that start with the letter M. Mm-hmm. And then next Thursday, I'll be on the BS sessions with Mark and Jerry, doing a curveball here, doing the top 10 comedians. No, wait, they do top 11. So top 11 stand-up comedians.
I'm sure Sam
will be doing that. Huh?
Sam, yeah.
You guys are gonna get Sam in there. I know that. Is it Millie Vanilli gonna make your M?
Huh? Oh, Millie Vanilli. No, but I do have some interesting M's that are going to be coming up.
Well, definitely post those links on my group, Rocco Over You, and the RMCP Army, which I also administrate.
Oh, okay.
For that too. I don't know if you're part of that, Andy, but you should join that group.
Yeah, I should, because I don't think I'm a part of that one. I know that I'm on the Rock All Over You podcast, but not that one. But thanks a lot, everybody. Thanks for watching, and thanks for preparing for this. This was a lot of fun. Once again, Jimi Hendrix takes it. And thanks a lot, guys, and y'all take care. And y'all have a good night.
Nice talking to you, Kate.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Always a pleasure, Al.
Yeah.
Same here.
Good times, guys.
Take care. Have a great night.
Yeah.
Take care, guys.
Oh, yeah, and y'all have a good 3-day weekend with Labor Day.
Labor Day.
Happy Labor Day. Later,
Happy Labor Day, guys.
Labor Day, y'all.
Because we know we all labor hard.
We're working for the weekend.
Working for the weekend.
Later.
Bye. Bye, y'all.